we rollin'. Some rock, some win, some 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 win.
Hi, my name is Loris Crow, and we are executing a Showtime. Zig Showtime is a show and a community for makers. Watch the show to learn about interesting projects and join the Discord server to share what you're working on and to collaborate with other members of the community. And if that's not your style or you're new to Zig, make sure to check the other Zig communities to find one that suits you best. So, hello everyone. It's interesting now that Showtime has a lower frequency. Everything seems, I don't know, more important. But also, I have to say, from my perspective, it's so nice to be able to have more time to do production work, because it takes time to talk with speakers, organize stuff. Also have like the community, like recharge batteries when it comes to presenting what they're working on. And today we're gonna have an interview for the first half, and for the second half, we're gonna have a show and tell. And I don't know if you noticed during the opening, but it's not show and tell working title anymore. But I made an executive decision, and the executive decision was basically piracy. I stole the idea from Andrew. I think he said Zig RUSH during a Showtime, and I liked it, and I think that's actually a good name for a show and tell session, right? So there we go. So the AWS approach. Oh my God, you're killing me. So let me just immediately explain how Zig RUSH works, because this is the important part. So in the second half of the show, so after we're done with the interview, after the 10-minute break is over, I'm going to check in Discord, in the Showtime Discord server, for people joining the waiting channel. I'll repeat this also later, so don't worry. You don't have to join, like, to prepare immediately now, but I'll check for people queued in Discord, ready to present stuff. I send you a message telling you to mute the stream so that you don't get confused by double audio. Once you confirm that you've muted the stream, I pull you into the voice channel, and at that moment you are live on stream. You can share your desktop, and you have 5 minutes. Try to be precise. 5 minutes to demo something that you're working on, and you can. It doesn't have to be completed. Something complete. And today, especially, you get bonus points if you can present something that might entice somebody that likes systems programming, somebody that, you know, can appreciate what Zig brings to the table, but somebody that is still working with C, I believe, mostly. And if you can tempt them to switch to Zig, who knows, maybe, I think it would be nice. Anyway, jokes aside, let me bring up a little bit of news first. So the news are, let me see, which order should I do? So first of all, I think we have a new forum. I don't know if you noticed, it's linked on Reddit, it's linked on a bunch of places. It's zigforum.org. Neat. I don't run it, Andrew doesn't run it. It's another community run by the community, and that's nice. And also, I have a section for Showtime there. The administrator then was Ben, was very kind, and the fact that there is a Showtime section allowed me to create a thread for this episode. So if you have like questions or comments that you want to ask or like say something after the show is over, I will encourage you to go there and discuss there. YouTube comments are kind of an option, but also not really, because they're always kind of crappy. And I think this is an opportunity for starting a new kind of interaction when it comes to Showtime. So that's number one. Number two is zigbin.io. I don't know if you heard of it, but it's amazing. It's a paste bin for Zig. It's so nice. Please somebody link a zigbin snippet in chat. It's so freaking nice. So if you are sharing Zig code around, just use zigbin. Like there's no reason to subject ourselves to wonky highlighting anymore. So these are two external things. Now let me talk about something more related to the show. Some of you have seen Suzie. Suzie is finally we have a design for the mascot, and I think it's amazing. And you can, if you join the Discord server, you can also find the artist. He's in Discord. I might be mispronouncing his name horribly. I apologize in advance, but at least it's Joey Max. And if you have art to commission, man, I super recommend him. Now, some people have already seen because I shared it, but I have other drawings that I'm keeping secret that I'm going to release as I do things. And like, this is another one that he did such a great job at designing everything. And more importantly, these are all like just single images that I will use to do YouTube thumbnails and stuff. But I also commissioned one full desktop background, and I'm gonna share a link to it at the end of the episode. And I think it's amazing. Look at this. The title is Ziggy redirects weapon control to the wrong TTI. The idea is that Ziggy is messing around with stuff, and oops, weapons control was just sent to Suzie's terminal, but Suzie's playing Space Invaders, and it's about to press fire, and I don't know what's going to happen. Undefined behavior? I don't know. Well, it's up to you how you want to interpret it. But I think the drawing is amazing. And I provided the high-level concept, but like the execution and the entire feeling is from Joy, and it's so good. So yeah, I'll share it soon, and I'll share it on Twitter and everywhere. I'll put it also on GitHub, so don't worry, you'll find a link to it. So yeah, that's so nice. But these are the end of the news. So let me finally bring up our guest, if I find the button to click, because it's time to talk with Abner. So Abner, how's it going?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
That's awesome. Hey, thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here, actually. So, how are you? How's life? You are in Portland, right?
Actually, no, I'm in Seattle.
Oh, sorry.
Which is not that far away from Portland.
Sorry.
I'm just like a few hours away from seeing Andrew Kelley, just driving down. Hey, Andrew. Yeah, life is going well here. I just recently moved to a new apartment where I actually have my own office. So nice. I actually have a window where I can look out and see the mountains, the snowy mountains. And I haven't had a chance to have a haircut. You're talking about you want long hair. I would caution you that it's a lot of maintenance trouble. I haven't added hair gel since the pandemic started, basically. I guess maybe the first few weeks, but other than that, no. So be careful what you wish for, Loris.
I see. I've never reached that level of power, to be honest. So yeah, I might be getting myself into something that I cannot control, but okay, we'll see. Awesome. So let me give a very brief introduction to the idea behind this interview, just to give like a bit of background, and then we can start. So the idea is, well, I chose the title. The title is Software That You Can Love, Discovering the Handmade Community with Abner Coimbre. The idea behind Software That You Can Love is I try to come up with a title that could somehow synthesize what I believe is somewhat in common with the Handmade community and the Zig community, but also a little bit of something that might be there in both communities, but not exactly explicitly said in the Handmade manifesto or other, I don't know, the Zig Zen or stuff like this. And I think it's obvious consequence of where we all are starting from. But I leave it up to you to actually decide how much this fits your mental model for things. From my perspective, the idea of software that you can love. Let me bring a practical example, like a physical example, not software. So I recently bought a coffee machine, and that coffee machine, it's like a mocha, but it can reach 9 bars of pressure and it can make espresso. It's so nice, and I started liking it a lot when it made coffee the proper way. But the moment I started loving that machine is when I broke it. I left it on the fire, or more precisely, like I failed to turn off the stove completely, and the safety seal broke. And I was left with a broken machine. So the moment I loved it is when I kind of had to fix it, and turns out that machine is well engineered, and you just need an Allen key, and you can break it apart. And I did have replacement parts in the box, and there's a bunch of plastic. Every single piece that can be broken, it can be replaced easily. And that's what basically for me made the thing from something that I appreciate to something that I love. Because it's also something that I can take apart, I can understand how it works, and it's not overly complicated, it's not hostile to me. It's really something that I own in a very deep sense. So I think that the same can also apply to software, and I think that's the background around which I think we're going to have this interview. So, are you ready, Abner?
I am ready. Bring it on.
Okay. So, people from the Handmade community obviously know you already, but I think people from the Zig community might not, especially because right now we have a big influx of new people, and I think it's nice to bring them up to speed. It's a good opportunity to bring them up to speed. So I would say, can you please start by telling us a little bit about yourself and how you ended up involved in the Handmade community?
Yeah, so I got very lucky that my first job was, well, here's my t-shirt. I got to work for NASA. It was an amazing experience. So I'm originally from Puerto Rico, and my father, who was in the military, was super into computers and actually worked on the early computer technologies and telecommunications in the Army. And he would bring in giant mainframe computers in the basement of my house, and I would be able to see all these computers, 5 years old. Imagine me, tiny little me in the basement, just ogling all of the computers, right? So I got obsessed with computers, grew up with them, to the point where I was lucky that I found Linux programming, or programming on Linux, before finding programming on Windows. And the reason that's key is that Linux isn't afraid of you looking down its guts, right? Going into its internals and understanding what's going on there. So I got to play with all of these things, poking the kernel using the C language, right? At a very early age, to the point where I guess I got NASA's attention, which was, again, a huge, I was very lucky there. And so I went to NASA. Now, obviously, in between my time with Linux and my time with NASA, in between, there's college, right? There's university. Mm-hmm. And I learned a lot of, I would say, modern C++ ideas of how to write software, and I would just leave it there. And I believed a lot of it. When I went to NASA, though, and I was talking to the senior engineers at Kennedy Space Center, because we were upgrading the launch control system from like the old space shuttle days to a new system where now private companies like SpaceX, Virgin Galactic, Boeing, etc., are using our launch control system, are leasing our pads at NASA, and all of that. So I was part of that transition upgrade team. Anyway, sorry. So I'm talking about modern C++ with the senior engineers, and they're like slapping me, just trying to pick some sense into me. Like, no, we don't. For real-time control systems, we wouldn't use modern C++ for these reasons. Or if we would use modern C++, here are the things that we will absolutely prevent you from using, because of the costs. And the costs were about performance. The costs were about simplicity when you try to disassemble your code base and try to inspect what's going on, right? And then there's also a cost of, like, you're tempted to use a lot of libraries that are going to be slower than the thing you would write your own way without using modern C++ in order to make your systems fast enough to, launch a rocket in time, right? So there, I was like, wow, I can't believe I was taught all of these things in school that are just not applying for the things I'm interested in. I was wondering at that time, like in my early 20s, if there was a, how do you call it? Like a civilian version of what I learned at Kennedy Space Center of how to program. That civilian version happened to be Handmade Hero, right? And for those of you who don't know, I feel like the Zig community probably knows Handmade Hero, but they can go Google it.
I would say mostly yes, but if you can just like super briefly recap what it is for the new people, I think that would be nice.
Yeah. So Handmade Hero is a series that's been going on since late 2014. So, a lot of years at this point. And yeah, sorry. So some people on the chat saying they don't know about Handmade Hero. So it's a series started by Casey Muratori, who is a fantastic programmer, low-level programmer in his own right, for sure. And he was like, let's make a video game from scratch. And what from scratch means let's avoid using some of the popular frameworks. Let's avoid using some of the popular game engines. And let's try to write a game by writing those libraries that we need ourselves and by trying to understand the whole infrastructure of what is required to make an actual game on a modern machine, right? And that's not necessarily practical in the sense of like you're going to do that every single time you write a game. You're going to start from scratch. No, right? But it gives you this understanding of how modern machines actually work behind the scenes, right? So that when you are working and when you are programming in your day-to-day, you sort of know how to make simpler choices or wiser decisions of what libraries to bring in or which things to hand roll on your own in order to build the optimal product based on your time, based on your resources, etc. But you have that baseline, right? You have that baseline of understanding of how computers work. And Handmade Hero like inspired that into a whole movement, the Handmade movement, right? And so while he was doing that series, I was getting slapped by the seniors at NASA. And I'm like, I wonder if this is happening in the civilian space. And I saw Handmade Hero. And it was like a perfect marriage, right? Before between the agency and Handmade Hero. There wasn't like an official NASA partnership. It was just me. But at the same time, it was very interesting because I was so passionate, so excited. Still today, like many years later, you can listen to me being very passionate about this. That I'm like, let's start a community. Let's start a community around Handmade so that people can be motivated to learn, what's a CPU for real, right? How many drivers are being installed in your graphics card for you to be able to program your graphics card? And what are compiler intrinsics? What are SIMD instructions? Like, what is all of this crazy stuff that works behind the scenes that makes the software world run, right? And so Handmade grew out of that. And then lots of projects inspired by Handmade Hero now exist on a website. I don't know if you have that available. It's a website called handmade.network. And the Handmade Network was my initiative with a fantastic developer team that I led for a few years. And yeah, we have a whole set of forums. We have a whole set of projects. We have a community showcase that the new staff is working on. You can see Handmade Hero is like front and center there, but there's definitely a lot of other projects that follow that Handmade philosophy. So yeah, I think that's what Handmade does. And I think it relates a little bit to what you were saying earlier about software that you can love, right? And software that you can repair, because the more you know about how things work, the easier it is to fix these things that you want to fix. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah. So out of curiosity, about so you mentioned that you went to college and you got taught a bunch of C++ concepts that turned out to be not what you needed. What was the name of your what's the word of the course that you were following? Was it like electrical engineering, computer science, something different?
Yeah, it was computer engineering, and then I eventually transitioned to computer science. So when I transferred from Puerto Rico to NASA in Florida, I transferred from computer engineering to computer science. So I've actually tried both degrees, right? And yeah, the courses that they were teaching was my God, a lot of Java, a lot of C++, again, the modern C++ that we talked about. And there was probably one class, just one, that was about computer architecture, which is like, how is a computer systems organized, right? Here's the DMA controller, here's the L1 and L2 caches of your CPU. This is where they are. This is what a cache miss is. This is what an instruction miss is, etc. That was just one class, and the professor taught it in a way that made it seem like it's archaic knowledge. Like you don't need to know about this anymore, right? So that was curious.
I see. That's interesting. I don't know. From I come from, I guess, the inverse angle to this. I think we probably agree on the conclusion, even though we come from the opposite end of the spectrum. For me, I studied computer science, and I think of myself as a computer scientist, not as a computer engineer. And I say that in how can I say, there's some humility there. I am not as good of an engineer as other people, and I'm aware of that. But on the other hand, there are some things that if you have a scientific background, you can bring to the table that a course specifically designed for engineering might lack. That said, I do think that if you are studying, like I think we could argue that if you're studying software engineering, then going the C++ or P route is suboptimal. And I would argue that the same is true also if you're trying to study computer science. It's not good either way. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I would agree. So the problem is, I don't know when it happened, but there was a glitch. It's just me like researching these things, right? And I'm not sure I'm an expert just yet in talking about our history in the field, but I've noticed there was a bit of a glitch in history where programming happened to be a lot more dangerous for at least business people, like where they were looking at people writing software back then. And I'm talking about the days of like assembly and vanilla C and I guess what else was there? Algo, Lisp, Simula, all of these, the old guard of languages, Fortran, whatever. But specifically C and assembly caused a lot of headaches while we were trying to learn what are the best ways to mitigate memory corruption, or what are the best ways to address things like scaling your software so that more and more people, more developers start going into the code base and being able to jump right in and make things work. It turns out that this is a bit of a craft. Like writing large-scale software in a low-level language is not necessarily easy. Not everybody can do it. It takes a lot of time and effort, right? So I think there was a mix of people that wanted more developers to just learn programming quickly so that the business of the software in their business can be developed faster. And there was also a mix of people that were so burned by the memory leaks, by the memory corruptions, by the crashes, so burned by it that they were like, I think they swung the pendulum the way extreme opposite to say, you know what, we need to safeguard ourselves forever from all of the things that are low level in computers. So let's build the C++, let's build the Java. Java means it's a virtual machine, and what you write becomes bytecode, and the virtual machine will prevent you from having to deal with memory, right? Allocations and stuff like that. So I would agree that, back to your question, in order to write the best possible software for your users, right, you can't avoid understanding how things work. And that means that languages like Java, modern C++, maybe sometimes even Rust, aren't the best way for you to learn how computer systems are organized, how computer systems function, right? You want to find a language that just lets you do what you need to do to learn computers. And maybe even you can either, after you know how computers work, like actually behind the scenes as a developer, you can choose to go to Java, right? I still write Java programs sometimes for work, right? Since I know how a virtual machine would probably be implemented, like I'm not an expert, right? But like, since I know how that works, I can write better Java software because I can make wise decisions. you can go that direction, or you can actually stay because you became competent enough in C, or you became competent enough in assembly, and now you can write software using that, and then you're going to be more performant. Hopefully you make simpler choices because you don't have a lot of complexity in the language. So there's only so much complexity you can bring in because the language doesn't have that complexity. So that's good, right? So I agree with you. I don't think software engineering courses teaching you only JavaScript and only Java and giving you like one architecture class and telling you this is archaic, just get an A or B and move on with your life. Like that's not where we want to be as a field. Yeah, I agree with that.
There is one thing though that I think I understand it, and I think probably also the public understands it. But I think we are circling around it now in this discussion, and I'm curious to see if maybe you want to take a stab at it directly. You mentioned this duality: higher level languages that jail you into. They give you freedom by jailing you right into a subset of what the machine can do, and you pay a performance hit. And to some degree, over time, over like generations, you pay even like a ignorance hit if you always stay there. But they free you from undefined behavior. Let's just say undefined behavior.
Sure.
And yet, why are we considering where does C++ sit? So by the way, in the Zig community, we kinda have these conflictual relationship like with C++, because C++ represents, and that's what I'm trying to get at, represents there's something different, right? There's something about this C++ that in my mind makes me think of it as like the worst of both worlds, because it's like overcomplicated and you still get the memory bugs. And it's like, why don't you put C++ in the full control of the machine camp? Because technically you could.
Yeah, well, I think it lets you have full control of the machine, but the language itself has grown so complex that you are gonna have a tough time having control of the machine in the best way. And I'll give you an example. And I think I've mentioned this. Sorry, the Handmade community, sorry, I always give this example. It's like my favorite example. So when I work on my projects, my personal projects, right? We can maybe talk about my projects later, but like I'm writing a terminal emulator, for example, side project. And this terminal emulator is now using Vulkan as the graphics rendering layer, right? And Vulkan is a complex API, right? It's trying to abstract modern GPUs across different vendors, which is crazy, right? But okay, at least it's a vanilla C, so the API is simple to look at and understand. But when I go online to learn about Vulkan, and all the tutorials that you see there, they're all using modern C++. I think even today, if you go and Google Vulkan tutorials or Vulkan helper libraries or Vulkan wrappers, I think to this day, everything is stored in C++, modern C++. Even though the language, right, the API of Vulkan is vanilla C, right? But nobody is writing wrappers or anything in vanilla C. They're just using modern C++, right? Now here's the problem. As I'm learning Vulkan, I go to the most popular Vulkan tutorial, right? And this Vulkan tutorial goes in and starts to import 3D models, which is fine. Like we want to learn how to import 3D models, so here's an OBJ, whatever. But then the author goes into importing a lot of stuff from the language from C++, like an unordered map, right? And then it overloads a lot of operators so that it's easier for you to index. So like as you're iterating through the vertices, right? You store the unique indices in the unordered map. But because when you do that, you're trying to deduplicate stuff, right? But there's overloading of operators. There's importing unordered maps. Then there's like defining template specializations for custom hash functions, right? So that then you can use the indices of those unordered maps as structs of like the vertices. So like you have your unordered map and then you index it. Instead of a number, you get to use like a struct or something like that. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, what? So following all of that, right? Do you think at this point, you know how machines actually work? Are you understanding that at all? Are you having an experience of like, oh, now that I'm learning all of these amazing things of modern C++, I understand how machines work. No, right? You're being shoehorned into all of these abstractions and complexities of the language. So even though C++ technically lets you, right, dig deep and learn, in practice, it doesn't happen. It just doesn't. It never happens. So
I see. I think your point of view kind of mirrors also what is the general consensus on our side of the fence. I personally, I made this joke I think already in the past, but I made this vow of never smoking, never doing drugs, sorry, never having premarital sex, and never writing C++. And C++ is what is allowing me, thanks to the logical conjunction, to keep my vow. So that's one of the reasons why I'm in the Zig thing.
unbelievable, man.
Anyway, okay, so but
More power to you.
talking about this kind of stuff, okay, can you explain to me this blog post? I look into NASA's coding philosophy by Abner Coimbre. I scroll down, and I think it covers mostly what you were saying, but can you explain this? Should OOP be the future of programming? Let's join the Rust evangelism strike force, lul. Is Go like totally better than language with other design goals? Question mark.
Good times. Yeah. So this was funny. This was, I was telling you the story of like NASA was teaching me optimal ways to program the way I wanted to. And I came across Handmade Hero, and those things were merging. And I'm like, I want to explain my experience of how NASA got me to learn about Handmade and Handmade Hero. And so it's funny because as I was writing this article that apparently a lot of people loved, so even like the press published it and everything. So very grateful for that, because it was like new. It's like, oh, you can actually learn how computer systems operate and then program with an understanding of things. You can be a developer like that. Yes, you can. You can. And so the examples you showed earlier was real world examples, like actual people saying, young developers, go join the Rust evangelism strike force because Rust is the future. And if you don't use Rust, right, then you're lame. You're a loser. And I'm like, but where's the meat in your argument, right? And I'm just obviously I'm choosing the common denominator of the Rust strike force, right? I don't want to paint all Rust people like that. Obviously not, right? But there were enough people saying join the Rust evangelism strike force, or definitely learn object-oriented programming, LOL, because it's the thing to do, right? So it's like this, find your identity to concepts that, or to ideas that are just like not very useful for writing good software. So that's why I wrote the article. It's like, wait, hold on. Here's what NASA taught me. Here's Handmade Hero taught me. Let me just show you a contrasting experience of like, here's the opposite of joining the Rust evangelism strike force. This is what the opposite looks like, right?
Yeah.
And that's why I wrote that article. Yeah.
I see. Makes sense. Well, yeah, there's a lot of tribalism, I guess, around languages, and some of it, I guess, it's natural. People
and
have
text editors and frameworks.
True, but for languages,
browsers.
I think especially, there's an industry that fuels that way of thinking, in my opinion. Like the fact that languages have companies behind them and huge marketing muscles. I mean, we could make, okay, we just mentioned the Rust evangelism strike force, but another example where there is no, how can I say, there is not as much perception of it being an evangelism strike force, but a very marketing fueled language ecosystem is, in my opinion, C# in the Microsoft world. They run conferences that are not officially under the Microsoft name, but there's all the Microsoft influences there, and they present their Microsoft stuff. And Abner, just given what you just described, let me tell you about the latest and greatest. There's this amazing framework called Blazor that allows you to run C# applications written MVC style, so very pumped to the brim with OP stuff and all the nice things in the browser. it's one of those things that makes you regret JavaScript. At least that's my impression. But anyway,
Gotcha.
okay. So let's move to the next question then. So you got to the point where things started with the Handmade community. It's been what since the start? 5 years? Did you say? I don't remember.
Yes.
5 years. Okay. So how is the Handmade community organized today, and what is your role?
Yeah. So the Handmade network, the community I organized around Handmade Hero and Casey. I ran that for a number of years, again, with an amazing developer team. If you go to the Handmade Network website, you go to the About page, you'll still see the other people that worked on it. It wasn't just me, right? Anyway, so that original team eventually passed the baton to new people. So there's a new team now. So you have Ryan Fleury, who is a great friend and is now like, he did a lot of internships at Apple and Insomniac Games, and now he's like at Rad Game Tools, which got acquired by Epic. So lots of crazy stuff. So he's in charge now of Handmade.network along with other people, great people. And then I decided to take a step back. And you were just talking about the marketing side of things, like how people, and I agree with you. So the reason people join the Rust evangelism strike force isn't so much because of the tribal portion of that segment of people. It's because of the marketing, right? So you have this big tech, big corporations, giant PR muscles from Mozilla or Google or whoever it might be, pushing these languages as the holy grail of how to write software these days, and then they just eat it up, right? I was like, well, what if I want Handmade, or what if I want this idea of programming with an understanding of machines, programming with a simpler set of language constructs, with a eye towards better end user experience, with an eye towards not being bloated, with an eye towards not crashing all the time, not being slow, etc., being buttery smooth. If we want that to happen, we also are going to need some degree, some marketing, some kind of set of conferences, right? And that's where I'm coming in. So I am now running conferences. I'm calling them Handmade Seattle, which is the spiritual successor to Handmade Heroes conferences. So Handmade Hero used to do conferences. They did like 2015, 2016. There was a break. People were saying, Abner, we want Handmade conferences again. And that was being asked all the time. I decided, okay, let's run conferences for Handmade, which I think is a good step in trying to fight against all of the stuff that the modern languages that we disagree with. I think that's a good step to do things. So running conferences is a good idea. So that's what I'm up to these days, is running conferences. Of course, my professional history, right, was like after NASA, I worked for Thekla for a few years for Jonathan Blow until March of last year. So actually, it's been a year since I left NASA. And now these days, I'm working for Cyan Worlds, which is the company that made Myst, right? And it's a fantastic company to be in. So yeah, but in terms of the Handmade stuff, I'm running conferences. I'm hoping that Handmade conferences 2021 happens, right? It's going to be in the fall. So that's what I'm up to these days. Yeah, so you have the Handmade network. You have Handmade Hero is kind of separate. And then you have Handmade Seattle, kind of separate, but we're all still part of Handmade, right? Mm-hmm. So.
Okay. Thank you. So,
or I should say, props to Cyan, because they hired me as an actual systems programmer. Right? So like they use Unreal Engine, they use blueprints when it's needed, but they also have engine programmers that customize the Unreal Engine in amazing ways that I didn't know you could do, right? Mm-hmm. And now they hired me as a systems programmer, so props to them. Part of it was because they knew about me and they knew about Handmade. So the whole conference stuff and the whole community stuff, pushing for mainstream acceptance of low-level programming, it's possible. Like companies take notice. You just got to keep working at it.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. Well, you have to play the game, right? It's easy to cry that boo-hoo, big tech is doing things, and yeah, they are. But at the same time, it's the ideas don't push themselves. You need you need somebody to push the idea, and you need a medium to do so. And conferences.
Not everybody has to do it, right? You don't want all low-level programmers having to like do a lot of marketing and like make their
Sure.
website super pretty. I mean, I advocate for that. I'm like, you have to do both the hard, deep work of understanding machines and programming at a low level, but at the same time, you want to write websites. I get a lot of flack for that. I'm like, no, you gotta write websites. You gotta stream sometimes. You gotta interact with the public and try to be respectful about it, and have conversations with people who don't know about low-level programming but who might want to work with you, right?
Right.
You got to do those stuff. Not everybody, but a few key people have to do it.
Yeah,
at least.
I agree. Makes sense. I think at the end of the day, obviously, the whole point of doing things is just to enjoy the programming, I guess, to enjoying the tool. Like I mentioned my coffee machine, but I don't do that all the day. My point is, I would just want to enjoy the coffee. But then when you are a community leader, when you are yourself an influencer, I guess, I mean, again, I do use the term in a, I'm going to say, mostly depreciative way, but that's also what I do, and you have to own it. And when you're in that position, you gotta play the game. Yeah. Okay. So let's see. So we talked about your origin story and how you got your systems programming superpowers. We talked about the Handmade community today, briefly, at least structurally. And the next question, I guess, is more about why you're here now, because you know about Zig, right? So how did you learn about Zig? And I also know that you mentioned earlier your terminal project, right? And I know that you're using Zig in there somewhere. So how has been the experience for you?
Yeah, I don't even remember how I found out about Zig, so I have to think back at it. It's nice though, because that's a good sign that it feels like Zig has been around forever, and I wish that were true, right? But anyway, so yeah, for my terminal project, which is on, if you're interested in my terminal project, you can Google Handmade Seattle, because I gave a talk, then click on the media page, and you'll be able to see the terminal project there, just in case you're curious about
I think
personal side project.
I think
right
I have it. Is that the
now.
page?
Oh, nice. Yeah, that's the one.
Okay.
Yeah. Early ideas and prototype. That's the one. Yep. It's coming together. It's a little slow because I have a lot of things to do. Conference, full-time job, right? But I really care about the terminal, and I want to release it as a alpha sometime this year. So yeah. Anyway, so yeah, I am using Zig CC for that because Andrew Kelley appeared on both Handmade Seattle 2019 and Handmade Seattle 2020. And so I had a great experience talking to Andrew, and I had a good experience learning about what Zig is. And I'm like, oh, wow, this looks to me personally as a possible replacement, an actual possible replacement of Vanilla C. And I don't say that lightly, because I love Vanilla C, right, so much. But Zig seems to be the one contender, right? Not Rust, sorry, not C++. It's definitely possibly Zig. And Odin as well. So Zig and Odin is part of Handmade. So you have Zig and Odin competing for my affection.
Right.
Anyway, sorry. So yeah, I'm using Zig CC, and you can see in that thread that you're showing there.
Yeah.
I decided to compile because the terminal is going to be cross-platform, right? It's going to work on Windows, on Macs, and on Linux. And it's going to be native, and it's going to use Vulkan. Like, those things are possible, right? So Andrew said, a Zig CC can help you because it's a drop-in C compiler that cross-compile across the different platforms that you care about. I'm like, okay, let's try it out. So I did, and then the thread that you're showing was my experience using Zig CC. I got a bunch of errors. It's like I was trying to clean up my code base, and it turns out, like, if you try and click on one of the tweets that have a number 2 in the replies, this actually is the longest tweet thread I have ever had in my entire adult life. Right? So why? Because Zig CC discovered a UB, an undefined behavior bug, in Sean Barrett's code, because I use some of Sean Barrett's code, and bless Sean Barrett, love his libraries, right? And it turns out that Zig CC was the only compiler. I've compiled my terminal using multiple compilers, right? GCC, MSVC, you name it. Zig CC was the only one that discovered right away by default this undefined behavior bug. And I pulled in Sean. You can see Sean there talking about it. Like, I think it was about portably addressing a 2D array, right? Turns out that the way he was doing it is portable, apparently. I say apparently because I'm not even sure this was ever resolved, because we actually even brought in C++ and C community members into this thread. If you keep digging hard enough, right? And they were just talking for days of like, is this UB? Like, what does Godbolt say about this? And it's like, wow, okay. John Rager, who's a fantastic person who like is like key or the king of like the literature and fuzzing compilers and breaking compilers and stuff like that. And yeah, there he is. So yeah, we were like all scrambling around trying to figure out, what happened. And that was just how Zig CC, made things interesting for me. So that doesn't mean I'm using Zig for my terminal project. I'm still using vanilla C, but I am compiling the project with Zig CC because this was amazing. Like we definitely want to see this out there more in the wild. So that's my experience with Zig so far.
So okay, so it went well. That's very good to hear.
More than well. That was quite a treat. That the tweet thread was amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. So okay, so we know now how you know about Zig. Let's see. Okay, so you are in this interesting situation, I guess, where well, I guess you're not the only one, because I know that there are a few people in the Zig community that are also part of the Handmade community. And I guess, but that said, I think you are, I guess, in a position where by being somebody that is an organizer in the communities, I imagine you have a point of view that tends to be, how can I say, more attentive to the high-level meta stuff, like the ideas behind the community, right? I was showing earlier the Handmade manifesto, which is I recommended it as homework for the people to read before joining for the interview, and I do recommend it again. It's a nice read. And so the question would be at this point, so if you were to compare and contrast the Handmade and the Zig communities, based on your experience, what would the main commonalities and differences be?
Yeah, so interesting. I think what we have in common is that we, as community leaders, care about using, I guess, empathy as the strategy to grow systems programming. Right? I think there's this perception. It could be accurate, it could be inaccurate, it could be in between, of like low-level programmers being kind of assholes and jerks and not being able to work or cooperate in large teams. And that is a perception. Like, the perception is real. You can argue of whether how true that is, but the perception is there. We can't deny it. And so to me, it's been very important to find out how to use empathy as a useful lens, right? As a useful strategy or a knob that you turn and dial, that you're aware that it exists, right? In order to make sure that low-level programming, the community, right, can work across boundaries, right? With artists, with gameplay programmers, with executives and business people. Like, we want to grow low-level programming such that software becomes usable and a joy to use again, right? But for that to happen, you need empathy. And I think Zig, because of you and because of Andrew Kelley, of course, you guys also know how to apply, I guess, emotional intelligence, however cringy that sounds, right? But you know how to apply that in a way that is useful for the community. And so I try to do the same thing. And I think what we also have in common is that we care about the end user experience, right? So the end user experience is king. For that, you can love, like you said, part of it is like being able to go in there and fix stuff. That's kind of open source stuff. I guess Handmade doesn't do too much open source. But at the very least, the end user experience, we care about that. And I think we both also have a bit of an allergic reaction against big tech, right? So we are not fond of how giant corporations are producing software for people to consume. And it's not just like the whole performance or this is slow stuff. Of course, that's important, but it's also about how we treat the user. So end user experience, and it's not just about the software that you're interacting with. It's also how you interact with users in terms of how you manage their data or how you extract value from your users in like this perverse relationship, trying to get as much money as you can from it. I think we also have an allergic reaction against that, right? So yeah, and I think we also have an interest in foundations because Zig is a competitor to replacing C, right? I think you guys are also interested in the longevity and ownership in the digital space. And let me explain that. Because when you're writing software using something like Zig, I feel like you're also learning to, again, understand how machines work, but also when you're doing that, you get to make simpler choices about how to build your software. Like, no, I don't need these two libraries. I sort of know how that works, and I can build my stuff this way. When you make simpler choices with a simpler language like Zig, your software lasts longer, right? Because you don't have all these crazy radioactive frameworks and libraries that are going to rot or you have to update all the time, right? So obviously there's always a spectrum, right? You don't want to go, like I said, you don't want to go from scratch all the time. That doesn't make sense. But you don't want to pull in lots of dependencies all the time either, because you're going to spend the same amount of time fixing those dependencies or upgrading those libraries as you would just spending time learning how things work, right?
Yeah.
You're spending the same amount of time.
And you don't learn anything at the end of the day.
And then you don't learn anything at the other side, right? So you want to find the good middle ground there. And I think Zig and Handmade both agree with that. Let's see. I think in the difference department, I think Handmade has ideas of having solid foundations early. So you're going to see a lot of newcomers in Handmade writing their IMGUI libraries from scratch or writing their text editors from scratch all the time. And I feel like that's a little too much sometimes. But it's like, because we care about having our own foundations early on, I do feel like Zig maybe is okay with like adding, I mean, Zig works really hard, right? To have bindings for other languages in order to bind to libraries quickly. And you want people to develop software faster sometimes. And so to some degree, you're kind of okay with reaching out for external third-party stuff and keep writing your Zig software. And that's perfectly fine, right? I'm just trying to find some differences, right? Then Handmade does a lot of indie projects that are closed source or that we're trying to sell, right? Which I also think is fine. I would love to see more indie hackers selling their tools, right? But there's not a lot of open source in Handmade, which you could argue is a shame. Maybe we should have a little more of that. But I do think Zig is really into, especially because of Andrew and yourself, really into open source. And so that's another difference that we have. So I think hopefully those examples cover common stuff and the different stuff between us.
Yeah, so you raise a bunch of very good points. Let me ask a couple of follow-up questions about two in particular. Or rather, maybe I can add a little bit of context from my side of things on one, and the other is it's a pure question. So I think that on the idea of foundation code that lasts longer, code reuse, we normally tend to reason about this concept in terms of code reuse. The idea is, well, I guess it's a different way of wording roughly the same concept. And for example, that's one reason why allocators are an explicit argument. That's what allows you to bring your stuff into freestanding environments like embedded stuff where you don't have the same type of scale of memory that you get on a normal machine, or also WebAssembly. And like that's, for example, one manual thing where you have to do a little bit of extra work because you have to wire your allocators everywhere that you need to allocate. But then that's like a key thing when it comes to code reuse and also other things. So yeah, that's interesting. That said, though, I think that for us, you hit the nail on the head. I think about that, because I think that we do have this goal, But given how young the language is and how everybody is, we're all just getting started, and we are trying to make things work however we can, and try to climb into basic use cases, and being mostly open source first community, I guess. We are not afraid of showing unfinished projects, like non-completed yet, and that actually still leaves the question unanswered. I'm optimistic about it, but the reality is that today we don't have like a fleet of super high quality projects that you can say boom, 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 checkmate, and we'll need to get there. And I think that's gonna be, and I think as you were saying earlier, solid foundations, early mindset, solid engineering mindset is something that we will need to learn how to tune with the other approaches, because we need to get there, otherwise there's no point.
At the same time, I think Handmade should learn, especially me, to push things out there more often. Again, we can go into extremes too quickly. So I guess your extreme might be pushing projects all the time that aren't necessarily complete yet, because you're more, I guess sometimes you're more curious. You're still experimenting with the language, and experimenting with all the new features that you're adding. I guess you're stabilizing at this point, but you know what I mean. Whereas for us, well, we're not using Zig often, right? Yeah. So we're using stable languages, old languages like C. So we're like focused on making things really solid, really early, and have the best possible projects to show. But that goes all the way up to even like myself, where like I only do a conference once a year, and I take a long time making sure that all the videos have subtitles and all the videos are perfect editing. And like I don't stream very often either. I know you stream pretty often, to the point where you even scaled it back a little. but that's good, right? Like pushing things out into the world to become visible is important. And for me, if I take too much, even with the terminal, right? Like I started the terminal in 2018, November of 2018, right? It's 2021 now, and I have not released the terminal for anybody to try it out. Nobody, just myself. That's a little bit too much, right? Mm-hmm. So I think I could learn a little bit from you as well. So
I see. Yeah, I could probably learn to edit my stuff and not just push it on YouTube. I publish videos where I leave the 10-minute break in the YouTube video. I'm sorry. I'm thinking I should.
No, so yeah, I'm very allergic to that kind of stuff, but I shouldn't be that allergic to it, because then you have all these other communities and languages just like pushing stuff all the time, and I'm sliding into obscurity. Mm-hmm. Right? You can't let that happen either. So
yeah, these are interesting points. So okay, here's a hard question, which is a follow-up of a point that you mentioned earlier. So you mentioned empathy, and you mentioned the perception that in systems programming sometimes people are assholes. Let's flip the point of view around, and I know, based on my experience, so this is not strictly about systems programming, but I think it's the same mindset. I remember a while ago when I used to play competitive video games. I'm from the Call of Duty 1, 2, 4 generation, Dota 1, Heroes of New Earth, Dota 2. Probably a few people have gone through my same, addictions, illnesses. Anyway, and I remember being either being part of clans or being the owner of my own clan, and I remember getting angry at people. I remember feeling disappointed, and I remember not always screaming at people, but sometimes yes. And in hindsight, not always, very rarely in a productive way. So if we think about this, when it comes to engineering is maybe not exactly competitive, but there is good and bad engineering. That's like, engineering is not relativistic. The point, you can do, or you can succeed or you can fail, and there is a scale of doing well or not. And so I can see why people from that same mindset can get angry and heated in when having arguments. So my question to you is, what do you know? What is the mental mechanism that allows you not to fall into that mindset? If can you think of what it is?
Yeah, I don't know if I'm an outlier or not, but I love systems programming, and I love spending a lot of time deep in thought programming. Right? Even today, like I mute my Slack at work for an hour or two just to program and not be influenced by any external factors. So I get really serious about programming, and again at a low level if I can. At the same time, I love people. I love socializing. I love interactions. I love being empathetic. I love being understanding. I feel like that's a key aspect of my personality, I suppose. And it's just I don't think it's ever going to go away. So I guess it's a good combination. It's probably I don't know if it's a rare combination. But throughout my life, lots of people that I've talked to who are also systems programmers, they think I'm a little crazy that I love interacting with people so much, right? And because they prefer, again, they just them and the machine, right? Touching the soul of the machine, whatever that means. Like that's their life's calling, and they think that spending time with like lots of people and maybe hosting events or parties. Like I got intern of the year at NASA, which was amazing. That's one of the reasons that I got catapulted to being employed at NASA for real. It was because I got intern of the year. Me, this lonely Puerto Rican boy, right? That comes from a traditionally poor background and all of that. I was just like, no, let's work hard, but let's also party hard. Let's organize events. Let's become a community. But don't forget about spending 2 days on your own programming, okay? Like it's not all about socializing. So I was like that kind of person always. And so I'm not sure I can explain what the mental mechanisms behind that are. Right? They're just there. I guess practice could be important. If you being empathetic towards other people is a practice like any other. I think it's a skill like any other. To some people, it comes more naturally than others. Right? And not everybody has to feel good and friendly with everybody, especially if you're like complaining about how a piece of software is causing you trouble. It's okay to be angry, right? But there are strategies about how to express that anger to your maximal benefit, right? Yeah, I'm not sure if that answers your question. It's just part of a weird combination that I have, and I guess I'm grateful that I have it. Hopefully.
Okay. Well, thank you. I guess, does it answer my question? I guess yes.
Probably not.
I mean,
well, I don't know. Yeah.
I think if I had the full answer, I would not be asking the question. I would be, I don't know, somewhere else making money selling this idea to big tech. No, I won't. I wouldn't. But yeah, I think it's an unsolved problem because the reality is that a lot of people, like, you don't always know precisely why you react the way you react. Let me give you one interesting example. This is in the Zig community. This is a recent example. I'm talking about people in chat right now. I won't name names though. Now that we have a new influx of newcomers, there's a lot of people that come in the Zig Help channel and they ask questions, sometimes basic questions, but there's one interesting class of people that tends to annoy members of the community. And for example, this was this recent interaction where somebody came in and started, this was a new person, so you only know the nickname, right? You don't know anything else about the person behind the nickname. You don't know their age, you don't know their background, you don't know anything. And this person starts saying, oh yeah, I'm interested in Zig. I just joined because of the recent stuff. So does Zig have a garbage collector? And people say no. Does Zig have a borrow checker? And people say no, it's manually managed. And this person says, oh, that's no good. And everybody starts tensing a little bit. And the person says, well, and this person says, well, just manual memory management could be a problem. Is there any plan for a garbage collector? There should be, or I'm paraphrasing. Maybe this wasn't precisely the how it was worded, but that was the general interpretation that I imagine people would give, and that's when people start feeling a bit angry, because the problem is that this new person is completely oblivious of the basics, and I myself reading this, I was saying, oh shit, what? No, this is not a good use of time. In my case, the mental mechanism that made me go what I believed is the right way was because that's kind of my job, and I feel I have a responsibility of getting these things right. But I understand where people are coming from. So, by the way, just to be clear, my answer was actually, in hindsight, the opposite one. I replied to the person, this is how we are going. This is the Zig philosophy. These things at this point in the project are not in discussion anymore. You should learn about what the points are. There's a talk by Andrew that usually people watch and gives a full overview of the philosophy behind the language. And the idea is you look at these points, and if you like them, come on board. We're going past Mars. We're going to another galaxy. And if you don't like them, then you should look into another language. These are at this point set in stone. And once you get there, you realize that, yeah, you reply this, and that's the end of the discussion. And maybe the other side might not be receptive. So I'm not saying this is like the silver bullet. Sometimes things cannot go well. But the initial reaction of, look at this person hating, ignoring, being ignorant about our philosophy, and you fall into these things.
You want to channel that energy. Like, there's nothing wrong with being angry. Let me just be clear, right? I'm not wanting people in the low-level programming communities to sing Kumbaya and hold hands, especially with the people that are creating the bad software that they're forcing us to swallow through big tech or big corporations. Like, that's not the point. The point is to channel your anger in the maximally productive ways. And engineering, the core engineering work is king, of course, but it is also embedded in a social context, right? And you're working with other people. Ideally, like if you want to have good software, the things we consider good software to be part of the mainstream world again, social context is also very important, and you need to learn how to channel the anger. I think your strategy was very good. Like, you could have gotten angry and just outburst in a way that taints the image of Zig to some degree if you keep doing it all the time, right? You channeled it into the proper way. You gave the right answer, and then that shuts down the discussion. And then you keep learning how to do these things if you keep practicing it. But it's not about kumbaya, singing kumbaya. It's about how to channel your anger in the right ways, and how to be relentlessly optimistic about change that can happen in the world. And I'm very optimistic about it. Handmade Seattle, last year we had to go online because of the pandemic. I worked really hard to make sure that it was worth it. I worked with 16 speakers, 12 presentations, and I was just applying all of my strategies of like, how do I make people feel good in a pandemic? Because even some of my speakers caught COVID, right? It was extremely stressful. But I'm like, no, I'm going to make it happen because we want the conferences to continue no matter what. It's crucial, right? And it worked. 13,000 live viewers across the whole weekend. We were on Hacker News front page all weekend, and hundreds and hundreds of people registered for the private chat, bought tickets, even though the event was streamed for free, right? Like, these strategies work. Empathy as a strategy to grow systems programming is effective. It works.
I think we are getting a very interesting point here. Awesome. I agree, by the way. It's the same for me, like with Showtime. I need speakers. Like, this show doesn't exist without speakers, and I'm a slut for speakers. So every time I have to make a choice, it's always speaker first, even before viewers, because viewers, yes, I do want viewers, but speakers are the most scarce resource, and they bring a lot of value to the table. I'm not in a situation where I can pay speakers, so it makes sense. And I think like everything connects. I think pretty well. You don't do this because you want to sing Kumbaya. You do this because you want to achieve a result. Kind of like in normal engineering, you want to achieve a result by operating a machine. Here you want to achieve a result by, sounds maybe bad to say this, but operating other humans. While other humans operate on you, like it's not like you are the mastermind that can control the puppets. You're very rarely in a similar position. So others act on you just as much as you act on them. But you can engineer, you can try to do your best to obtain a outcome that is beneficial to you. And that's a very interesting point, by the way. I think this point is so nice. I will ask people to keep that in mind, because I think we have unlocked some extra content in the end connected to this point. I'll come back to this later after we're done with everything. This is going to be nice. So you already mentioned a few things that, in your opinion, the Zig community should try to do based on your experience with the Handmade community, and maybe also some things that you think the Handmade community should steal from Zig. Do you want to go more into this, or do you want to move forward?
Yeah, I think I have to process it, like see what initiatives would be the best for Handmade to adopt some of Zig's ideals. And I run conferences. I don't run the community anymore. That's Ryan Fleury and his team. But I think some of them are watching this interview. Like, it'd be great if they're keeping tabs on what we've said, see if they have ideas that came out of this. But I think more initiatives to do the things that Zig does, like pushing for more projects, even if they're not complete, but different enough projects that get people excited would be good. I think getting more open source software projects in there would be pretty good. So yeah, but since I'm not leading it, I guess I'll have to talk to the team, see what they think.
Okay.
But, yeah, it's very cool stuff. I'm glad we had this discussion about that.
Okay, so next question, I guess, is so you mentioned that everything started for you by watching Handmade Hero by Casey Muratori, and then you mentioned also Jonathan Blow. So I would like to understand a little bit better what the relationship is between the Handmade community, Casey and Jonathan. Like, do they have an active role in the community? How are things nowadays?
Oh boy, that's quite a question. Let's see. For Casey Muratori, he's definitely still doing Handmade Hero, and we definitely have a good relationship. We still talk, and Handmade Seattle is operated independently of Handmade Hero. Like, it's not part of his company. It's not part of Mother Rocket. Like, it's my own thing, right? But he's very supportive. So, like, he streams Handmade Hero. He promotes Handmade Seattle often, right? Et cetera, et cetera. So we have a good relationship there. Somebody in the chat saying Casey's actually streaming right now, right? So Handmade Hero is still going. It's still part of Handmade Network, technically speaking, because like if you go to Handmade Network, you see Handmade Hero forums still active to this day, obviously, because the series is still going. So I don't see much of a problem there. But in terms of like Casey running the Handmade Network, he's not, right? He's just hosting his project in the Handmade Network, but his project is his own thing. And now he's doing something else called Star Code Galaxy, which is like this course where he teaches Intro to C in a much more long-form foundational way. Handmade Hero started with Intro to C, but it was only like a few episodes, and then he went hard on like, yeah, here's how you write a software rasterizer for your graphics engine. I'm like, oh, okay. So he's like, no, let's take some time to learn C with Start Code Galaxy. So that's his own project, again, separate. So yeah, we have a good relationship, but he's not involved running the community or the conferences, even though he promotes the stuff, right? But as far as Jonathan Blow, I see him as orthogonal to Handmade. I don't see him as part of Handmade. The only part that he took in that I think was useful was like the Handmade Dev Show. So I used to stream interviews, literally just like type in like handmadedev.show, for example, and you'll see that I interview Jonathan Blow. And I guess I figured that interview that I had with him was crucial for me to getting a job with him, I suppose, right? But it was just an interview. In terms of him being part of Handmade in any way, it's just no, it's orthogonal. He expressed support early on, but yeah, it's been a long time. Oh,
2016.
10 years.
Oof. I see. Wow, we're getting old.
Hey, I'm still not 30. So it's just funny because like I have jokes on my early streams, right? Where I would say when you're 30 as a developer, you're dead. You're as good as dead, right? I was saying that back when I was 22 or 23 or something. And now that I'm 29, I'm like, no, take it back. I take it back. You can be an amazing developer in your 30s. This is great. So yeah. Mistakes that you make. I can't believe I still have many regrets of how I used to stream like 5 years ago that are still online. Oh my God. And I would get drunk on chocolate wine and I would talk about Majora's Mask. I debated Casey with Majora's Mask in public about it being the best possible game. I mean, I still have a Majora's Mask necklace right here.
Yeah, I actually watched this. So to bring everybody up to speed, yesterday we had a test just to make sure the camera worked, audio levels were fine, etc. And Abner mentioned this discussion, and I also like Majora's Mask. Yeah, I also watched this, and I found it funny. So here's a small challenge for you. Actually, sorry, let me show this to the people because I wasn't showing. It's one of the links that you can find on handmadedev.show. By the way, .show, nice TLD. So in this I guess episode, you brought up points about Majora's Mask that were commercial success, execution in a limited time frame, and technical achievements. I believe these were the three main serious points. So you deliberately cut out. I guess what we could say story, like appreciation for the game from more of an artistic perspective, right? Rather than an engineeristic one. If you were to make an argument in favor of the storytelling part of Majora's Mask, what would you say? And just to give you full context, I plan to pick this up at the end of the interview after everything else, and I'll tell you my point of view of Majora's Mask based on when I played it while I think I was in high school. I played it a bit earlier, but between junior high and high school. And I'll tell you my perspective. And I also, I think we can also reconnect, from my perspective, some of the themes of Majora's Mask to building communities. So,
wow, that's fascinating. You got my attention. So, oh boy. So for Majora's Mask, sorry, it's a very personal game for me, only because it's a story about facing impending doom or impending disaster, and also confronting the people that are suffering because of that disaster or impending disaster. You're the one trying to heal their sorrows, and you're the one trying to make sure that they collectively find a way to fight against whatever disaster is happening, right? It's funny because this is really tied to Handmade to some degree, right? Where I just connected deeply with that because it's a very personal story for me, because I connected in the sense of like how I was growing up in Puerto Rico under difficult circumstances, how I had a terrible time learning English, and I had an accent until I still have an accent, but like I had a difficult problem talking English until just a few years ago. And then the challenges that I faced at NASA, which was, again, as somebody who came from Puerto Rico under the circumstances that I came from, I was just, I felt like the moon, right, was trying to crash, and I would lose everything, and I would have to go back as a failure, right? So stuff like that. are themes in my life that connected with the themes of Majora's Mask, and then also the fact that I love learning about people deeply and what there's and see if we can heal each other somehow. I know this is kind of vague, but that's what Link did in Majora's Mask, right?
Yeah.
It was just going around and finding the right people to heal. So once you heal them, you get the masks that then are useful in order to fight against the moon crashing, right? And I'm like, it's been themes of my life in so many ways, right? And that's why I can't give you like an objective storytelling perspective of Majora's Mask. Is that even possible? So it's hard to like explain precisely what parts of the story of Majora's Mask are better than like previous games, for example, because I just connected with it so hardcore that I am too biased to give you like a good explanation. So that's how much I love Majora's Mask. I talk about it all the time. And chocolate wine for some reason. So chocolate wine and Majora's Mask, very important things. So Vanilla Sea, Majora's Mask, chocolate wine, NASA, space exploration. These things just like engulf my life. So
I see. I think that was an amazing answer. I don't think I'm in a position either to like fully recap Majora's Mask for people that haven't played it. Like I know there are some people here, like I bet King probably hasn't played it, too young, but yeah, if people that have played Majora's Mask, I think get what you mean. At least I think I do. So that was nice.
You're gonna get me emotional. So let's move on to something else.
I promise you.
Oh God.
I promise you, this is gonna be worth it. I have the part that I connected with Majora's Mask was completely different, but it still I think points in the same direction. So that's gonna be nice. Okay, so we
Right.
So the reason why I was asking though is about Casey and Jonathan is because as you mentioned, by the way, also to give a little bit more context from my perspective, I also was following Handmade Hero when it started. Like I remember waking up in the middle of the night just to watch an early stream that was on a weird time in Europe. It was at a weird time for European time zones, and I remember following along for a long time. And so it's a bit but that said, I never got past. How can I say? I never got past that. I watched the streams. I knew the Handmade manifesto, but I never entered the community. Actually, before starting the recent job and then Zig, I was never a particularly social programmer. I was just doing my own things in private, and like I didn't do open source on GitHub. I didn't use Twitter. I deleted Facebook as soon as I got out of university. So it's like I wasn't the kind of person that felt like, oh, I want to belong to a community. Anyway, so from that perspective of an outsider, it's a bit, at least it seemed a bit fuzzy what this relationship was. So going forward with this general idea of understanding a little bit these personalities, and I think Jonathan Blow is in particular the most, I guess, interesting, maybe controversial one. So you mentioned earlier that you worked at Thekla and you were part of the compiler team, right? You were working on JI.
Right, I was working on the JI. I was part of the original JI compiler team. Okay. Jonathan Blow. Yeah.
So you worked there, but then you left the company. So what were the good and the not so good things about working at Thekla? And
oh boy.
Why did you decide to leave at the end?
Well, I need to get my hair loose for this one. Okay.
Yeah.
My goodness.
I think I'm not the first one to ask you this question.
What was the question again?
So the question was, what were the good and not so good things about working at Thekla, and what made you ultimately decide to leave? I'm not the first one to ask you this question.
I guess it's been enough time. Enough time has passed where hopefully I won't come off as a grumpy employee, right? It's been 1 year since I left. I've given the matter a lot of silence and deference, right? So if I talk about this now, I feel like at least people will understand that I am not coming from this as a grumpy employee. So I was there for almost 3 years, so about 2.5, and it was quite interesting because complete opposite of NASA, right? The complete opposite of Kennedy Space Center. NASA is a big organization, lots of people working together towards a common goal. With Thekla, it's a really small company compared to my team at NASA, of course, right? Barely 20 people, or less than 20 people, and only 3 of us in the company were part of the compiler team. So it was myself, it was Joshua Hosman, also a great friend. And if you go to Handmade Seattle, I've had podcasts with Joshua Hosman, so you get to learn about his philosophy. He's a great compiler engineer. To this day, he's working as a compiler engineer elsewhere. And then Ignacio Castaño, who was the senior graphics programmer for The Witness, right? And he worked for John for almost a decade. And I think The Witness would not be what it is without Ignacio's input and without Ignacio's graphics rendering work, right? So the 3 of us were part of the compiler team. About the same length. I guess Josh was there longer than us, but yeah, it was interesting working on the compiler because John was also part of the compiler team. With that is that not only is John our boss, and not only is John the president of the company, he's also on the ground working on the compiler with us. Okay? So that's a fascinating dynamic to have to experience, right? And that's fine, but yeah, I guess I can get very specific about recent events that happened at Thekla, and then maybe from there move backwards, right? So about 2 or 3 months ago, I think, maybe December 2020, I have no idea. There was like this Q&A video that Jonathan Blow did and put up on YouTube, where he's being asked why the compiler team shrank to just 1 person. In other words, back to him.
Yeah.
Like, why did Ignacio, why did Josh, why did I leave? I feel like I don't want to cause trouble, but I feel like he painted a rosy enough picture of himself that I have to provide a counter argument or a counterpoint from a team member's perspective, or next team member's perspective. So he said that the project was going off the rails, and that the compiler, right, wasn't up to par because sometimes programmers that join his company will have ideas of how to program that are bad because you followed examples on the internet that are bad code examples, et cetera, and that because he was busy all the time, which makes sense because he's the president of the company, fine, right? But because he's busy all the time, he couldn't be there making sure things don't go off the rails all the time, right? And
sorry, can I interject for a second? I watched that video, and the way it came across to me was that he said that he felt he was part of the problem, but then like he started by saying it was a communication problem, and I'm probably part of the problem. I'm as Jonathan. But then he went on to say that the things that you said, but there was also another interesting in between where he said that he thought that the philosophy would be clear because it was in the code, and from his perspective, and he also would stream and explain stuff. And so he was, this is, I'm paraphrasing, but you can find this in his answer. He saying, at that point, he says that he expected people to understand the philosophy by reading the code, and I guess also by watching the streams. And there was also another, I guess, level of failure that he ended up basically pinning on you, I guess. At least that was my interpretation. So I just want to point this out. By the way,
well, none of us. Oh, go ahead.
No, please continue. I'll just bring up the link in the meantime.
Okay, so none of us would have enough time to watch all of the things that you would talk about on stream, etc. Right? And I would also say that because the picture that he painted was super rosy for himself, he didn't have enough time to explain the things that we contributed to, right? Which were important things. In his company, everybody knows in his inner circles that John is a visionary. And I mean this in a very positive sense, right? Like John knows how to give a good vision for his ideas and a good vision for his projects. But ultimately, there is a bit of a brand. Like I don't think he cast this brand onto himself. The lone genius programmer brand, which people ascribe to him, like he doesn't disavow it. Right? So people see him as a lone genius programmer. But the truth is, even all the way back to Braid, John always had people working for him and helping him out. And that's not bad, right? I'm just trying to clarify. Like even for Braid, like the one who decomposed the gnarly frames on Braid and make sure that it was in a shippable state, part of that was Sean Barrett, right? And other people, I think Casey Muratori is in the credits too, etc. And again, this is not a secret. Again, I'm not painting him in a bad light here at all, not at all, right? Like if you go to the credits, all the people are there. That's fantastic. But I want people to realize that he has a lot of help in making sure that whatever he writes or whatever he talks about, it gets tightened up and optimized and cleaned up to the point where it's a shippable product, right? That's Ignacio Castaño, for example, for The Witness. That's the amazing, talented artist that I met at Thekla. That's the amazing senior programmers. There are plenty of senior programmers at Thekla. Well, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, about 4 people at least. And I don't know if that's less or more now, right? I haven't been there for a year. So we know that he put something out there and we take it and we try to make it shippable, right? And part of what I did at Thekla was also putting something in the code base that would help make things shippable, right? So my test framework helped uncover hundreds of compiler bugs, right? It was Joshua Hosman who provided the LLVM backend for the JI compiler and make sure that it wouldn't regress across platforms. So the JI compiler works on Linux and it works on Mac, largely thanks to Joshua Hosman, right? And again, like I did the testing framework and I would document all of the bugs and I would fuzz things in the compiler such that we will uncover even more bugs, and et cetera, right? I wrote example programs, example games, and so on, and while contending with all the compiler bugs and whatever. So I'm not saying that the compiler team was perfect in the way that he would have wanted, right? There probably needed to be some mentorship, some direct mentorship in order to get to the point where John would feel comfortable doing what he does, which is providing a vision, providing streams, providing, writing code. He's not a bad programmer, obviously, right? But then have people at the company go in, tighten the screws, and push something out there. So I think we weren't ready at that level because he cares about the JI compiler so much, to such a degree, that I feel like we weren't up to his standards, whatever those standards might be. I don't think even to this day, those standards were made very clear to me. Part of it was because he's busy, sure. But part of it was also, I think, a communication problem. Like, I need to defend Ignacio. I need to defend Josh. Like, these are great programmers. Use me as a scapegoat if you want. But these are amazing developers. And like, Ignacio's not hurting anymore. Oh my God, he's making back on other companies. And so is Josh. Josh is doing a fantastic compiler engineering job elsewhere, right? I don't want to speak for them, but I do want to say that 3 of us left in less than a year. So whether the 3 of us were at fault or John was at fault or whatever, it doesn't matter. What matters is that there actually was a communication problem between the compiler team and John, right? And that communication problem caused us to leave. Like, we weren't fired. At least not all of us were fired, right? So Ignacio Castaño left out of his own accord. I left out of my own accord. And Josh has a different story, a much more gnarly story, which I don't want to go into because it's not my place to do that, right? So I guess going from that Q&A video, I just want to say John is a human being like any other. He makes mistakes like we make mistakes as a team. And we left. Ignacio left and I left shortly after. And then Josh also left the company for gnarlier reasons, right? So, but that I don't think were his fault either, right? So it's kind of, I don't want to talk about this, right? I don't like it, but the fact that I receive DMs all the time and I receive communications all the time with, like, from the John Blow fan base, that he's perfect and I'm incompetent because he fired me. I'm like, that's not true, right? So let's just put the record straight at the very least, right? That probably ties back into the whole empathy strategy thing, like, yeah, I don't know. It's affected me quite a bit. So the reason I give this a year of silence and deference is like I just don't want to think about this anymore, right? Like it was rough working for him. It was rough receiving emails past midnight all the time. It was rough having the beta opened up during Christmas when we weren't around, and having John put readmes on the compiler for the beta user that said whoever did blah blah blah, my team is fired. Like jokes like that, right? I don't like that. I disagree with that, and I feel like his position as an influencer for the low-level programming community is something that I am now calling into question officially. Right? There's plenty of people. Again, there's Handmade Seattle, there's Andrew Kelley, there's Casey Muratori. I highly respect him. There's lots of people who don't engage in the kind of crazy things that happened during the compiler team. But at the same time, I gotta admit, right now I'm venting a little bit, right? Because even though I gave it a year, there's definitely some grumpiness right now. You can hear it in the way I'm talking. So let's be clear about this. Thekla is a great company. The people there are amazing. I love them. There's friends there that I deeply care about. Right? And I also think that John has a great vision. I hope Jai gets released. Right? And I hope that the compiler is successful. I think it's a better replacement for C++ for sure. I think that there are languages like Zig and Odin that compete with JAI, not a problem as well, right? So I think we should take this as an interesting situation where no one person should be like the saintly leader of any community, right? We're all human beings. John himself has said this. Again, I don't have problem with John or the company. I guess it's the public messaging that John has been doing that I would discuss against. And then the whole thing with, this is the last thing I'll say, the whole thing with the compiler team being shrunk to one, the people that DM me or the people that talk on Reddit that Josh, Ignacio, and I are somehow incompetent, that's not true, right? Ignacio left out of his own accord, I left out of my own accord. There was a communication problem with the entire compiler team and with John. And that's it. Mm-hmm. I don't think he was at fault completely, and I don't think I was at fault completely, or Ignacio was at fault completely. Josh was at fault completely. I'm just highlighting there was a communication problem, and that's what happened.
Mm-hmm. So. Okay, thank you. I think that
John didn't harass me, by the way. It was part of the users, part of his fan base, right? So let me just get that clear there as well. I don't want to cause trouble for Thekla or the people there, like I said. I'm just putting out the facts that I think are accurate. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I have to say, as an external observer who occasionally watches John's streams, and also based on my experience doing what I do in the Zig community, that what you're mentioning, basically carelessness in how he communicates publicly, causing negative side effects, is I can see that. I personally agree with your description when it comes to how the Q&A was structured. And actually, if I were to be honest, from my perspective, I would even say that there is some ego in there, and to protect a self-image, then you guys were thrown under the bus. But anyway, that's just my perception. But I've seen that also on streams where Jonathan is, for example, ranting about high-level languages, which is fine, but the way he does it and the way his fan base understands it ends up like being like almost borderline harassment. I even screenshotted once this interaction. Again, it's Twitch chat, so it is stupid and you cannot fully control it. But man, you can do a better job than this. At one point, he was complaining about higher level languages, etc. And I don't know, soon after, somebody came in and said, what does everybody think of Ruby? And everybody started shitting on this poor guy that just joined. And everybody said, oh, these things are stupid. You're stupid for using this stuff. And there was the reply, and the literal reply of this person saying, oh, okay, I'm sorry. I just started programming and I wanted to know everybody's opinion on this stuff. Thank you. It's like... You cannot be completely but the problem is, if you want to give Jonathan the respect that I believe he deserves, because as you said, he's a visionary, and I can say that I also recommended his talks to multiple people in the past, and I actually would continue doing it today. It's hard for me to say that he's not noticing this at all. It's really hard. It makes me think that there has to be some degree of acknowledgement of this and saying, yeah, I'm fine with this.
Yeah, I saw a user in your chat saying what I wish I would have said in a shorter way, right? Mm-hmm. He's saying, Pulp user, sorry for calling you out. I think John has very good points, Pulp user says. Wrapped in decades of frustration and a certain amount of communication deficit and phrased in deliberately offensive ways.
Yeah.
So I think, again, company itself is great, and the way he leads the company seems to be good to me. It's just, again, I just need to put that out there. It was very specific problem with the compiler team, and I think it was a mix of what I just read out loud, but also the fact that he is not only a president of a company, and that's tough, he also has boots on the ground, and we didn't get much guidance. We didn't get much communication. And to his credit, in the Q&A video that you showed, he definitely says that he needs to be more hands-on. Okay? Yeah, it's funny. Like, I don't think the claim that the programming team, especially when the compiler team, the claim that the compiler team was incompetent and therefore we were fired. That's the one thing I want to make sure that people know it's not true, right? Mm-hmm. Like, we all have our full-time jobs again and getting paid well. And so far I hear nothing but praise from my employer gratefully. Same with Josh, apparently, I believe, and same with Ignacio. So, and even as I was getting ready to leave, John was telling Josh and myself shortly after Ignacio left that he was getting ready to expand the scope of responsibilities of the compiler for me and for Josh. So you can imagine our surprise when we saw the Q&A video. Right? It's like, you said one thing in private, but then painted things differently in public. So I don't expect him to like self-deprecate himself in a public setting, but at the same time, this is my counter offer. People can believe it. People can think I'm a liar. It's whatever. I just hope that if anybody comes to the Q&A video again and goes on Reddit and talks about the original compiler team being sucky, at the very least, we have an auto reply that I can just send to those people that are causing trouble.
Makes sense.
So,
whoa, that was an intense question, huh?
Well, probably it was the right time.
Okay.
Probably it was the right time to ask it. Yeah.
Sorry, I interrupted you. If you want to take a sip.
Get it off my chest.
Okay. Yeah. If you want to take a sip of water, please do. Sorry, I even interrupted you.
I'll do more. Yeah.
Okay. Whoa. That was interesting. Let's move towards the end of the interview, and then I'll do my extra beats. That I think that they're gonna fit so well with how all the things that we covered. So, based on all that we went through, how would you like the Handmade community to take shape moving forward?
Well, it's quite a question after everything I've just discussed, right?
Yeah. I think it's the question, right? I mean, it's nice that you are able to tell your side of the story, but at the end of the day, yeah. What are the implications for everybody else?
It's the question I don't have a concrete answer for, and I think if I should say anything to Handmade, first of all, is not all perfect. We're all humans. We all make mistakes. Don't idolize your leaders. Don't idolize me. Don't idolize anybody. Worry about becoming a better programmer. Worry about understanding how machines work, as I always say a million times. This is the Handmade Hero message, and I subscribe to it 100%. I would also say that I believe that you need a combination of both competence and empathy in order to succeed, in order to make sure that the world isn't being swallowed by bad software. Because I'll tell you this. Since we talk about JAI, I guess I'll wrap it up by saying, if JAI comes out as a product and it's better than any other language out there, significantly better, I would say in public, you should switch to JAI instead of C++, etc. Like if after I objectively evaluate it, right? The person behind it, doesn't matter if the product came out, and especially if it becomes open source, especially if it becomes licensed, etc. Right? And we can just make it work, right? But at the same time, let's say you have somebody who is having issues steering a ship with a lot of people trying to get good products out there. Then because of the lack of empathetic strategies, that ship sinks or that ship fails or it gets rocked too much and the product suffers. Why would you want to do that, right? So if all of that bad stuff happened and the product came out and it's better than anything out there, hooray, right? I will praise that. Who cares? Same with Linux. Linus, you know Linus's asshole routine, performative jerk routine, right? I'd still prefer Linux because I can inspect the guts of it. I can that's how I got my started with programming, thanks to Linux and not Windows, right? But what if the way you are a performative jerk, or the way that you are being very sucky and demeaning, or et cetera, what if that causes your product to fail? Right? Or what if it causes your product to not have enough traction to fight against the big tech, the big corporations that are pushing software that we don't like, right? So I think you need to be both competent and compassionate. And being those two things, it's extremely hard, especially when you're so angry with the state of software, right? So this is a difficult call that I would make onto people to try to develop both your skills to socialize. And again, this doesn't mean kumbaya, right? You can tell somebody this part of the code base sucks, it's terrible. Here are my suggestions to improve it. What do you think, right? You can do that. But be careful not to take that too far. So I think for Handmade, I just implore you to become your own developer on your own rights and stand alongside the giants. You can do it. You can do it on your own. You can do it with the community helping you. Doesn't matter. Just focus on that and don't idolize all of your leaders. I think that would be so useful. And it will cause people like me in the future less pain and anguish and having to leave a job that you thought was amazing.
Whoa. Okay, thank you. That was another intense one. I will actually say the same for the Zig community, you know?
I have a history of being reluctant. I hope people know this. Like if you go back and try to look at, I have a history of being very reluctant to talk about people in a negative way. Like I don't like it. Like I'm very uncomfortable right now, right? But hopefully this serves as an auto reply for people who keep bothering me about this, right? So I guess I appreciate you asking the question, making all of this crazy stuff happen so I can move on with my life, hopefully.
I think we should do so. One final question, just to wrap up. This is an easy one, and then, as I promised,
yes, let's go back to happy times.
I'll share with you my perspective on Majora's Mask. I hope you'll appreciate it. So, and seriously, this is I want to do this. I want to share it with you. The viewers can spectate and maybe they enjoy it too. But really, this is for you. So, but before we get there, so any practical things that we should try to do together in the near future? We, as in Zig community and Handmade community.
I even have a list. Okay, so let's see. Any practical things we should try to do together? So I would love to keep collaborating with Andrew Kelley and Zig from Handmade Seattle, the conferences. Again, these conferences are becoming bigger every year, and thousands of more viewers. Like I said, last year we had 13,000 live viewers, front page of Hacker News all the time. Lots of people interested in Handmade. I like that. So I think Zig definitely deserves a space. So I kind of want to do like a 50-50 on the conferences, where like 50% of the content are familiar, recurring things. And then the other 50% is like hopefully new stuff, like new people, new voices, new speakers, etc. So I feel like if Zig wants to continue being part of Handmade Seattle, I would love that. I would love to keep inviting them and making that work. So Handmade, I would love it if you joined the Handmade Network Discord. So in the forums. So right here, yeah, there's the handmade.network. You can register an account. There's always talk every single day. There's always people talking all the time. I love it. Talking about low-level programming. And you have a community showcase. That community showcase are just like really at the very top. You have really awesome projects that are being shown on Discord. And so the new team, Ben Business, for example, bridge Discord and the Handmade Network so that you can see things being posted on Discord showing up on the website. In case you only want to be on the website, in case you only want to be on the forums, you won't miss out on the fun Discord stuff, right? But if you also want to be part of Discord, then go to handmade.network and click on chat on Discord. Love to chat. I'm there too. You can ping me and say hello. I'm very open to talking to people, as you know. And then for Handmade Seattle specifically, subscribe to the conference newsletter. If you go to Handmade Seattle, yep, there's newsletter right there. You can join the newsletter there. And I give notices of like, here are the tickets that are available. I would love to see you in person, right? If it's possible. And if you want to show your project and maybe become part of the conference, you can email me and maybe we can talk about it. Like I usually put up a call for software projects on the newsletter, like, hey, I'm interested in demoing projects on the conference. And then I think we can collaborate with Zig more that way. So I think those are the three things that would be useful. Keep working with Zig on Handmade Seattle. For Zig users to join the Handmade Network forums and vice versa, or the Discord, and join the newsletter for the Handmade Seattle. So I'm very excited to see what happens.
Thank you. So that was really nice. That was an amazing interview. Thank you very much for sharing all that you shared.
I'm exhausted.
You are?
How dare you? I'm so tired.
Okay, so here's the deal. Chat, you have one chance and one opportunity. If you want to ask questions to Abner, write them down now. I think we should not do too many questions. This interview has been really long already, but you have some time to write them down. Maybe I'll pick a couple. In the meantime, I'll do what I promised Abner. So Abner, here's my Majora's Mask bit. And I think this ties perfectly into all the discussions that we were having. So it's not just Majora's Mask, it's Majora's Mask, and I think how it connects to other things that you mentioned. When I was in school, when you're in school in Italy, I think in high school, yeah, you have to study this guy called Pirandello. I'm not a big fan of all the Italian literature. I feel like it's kind of, how can I say, it's boring. I always got the feeling from the way it was taught that you'll never be as good as the old masters, this kind of feeling. But regardless, Pirandello was from the First World War, and he wrote a bunch of interesting things. But I remember when studying this, how smug I was feeling, because I felt like I was seeing a better interpretation of all the ideas that Pirandello would show. Now, to this credit, he was First World War. So, for example, he would do a bunch of things that would break the fourth wall, meta stuff for the theater. For example, one theater opera is 6 characters in search of an author. So, and the characters interpret characters who are looking for an author. It's this kind of stuff. And I remember feeling super smug because I was going to school fresh of Metal Gear Solid 2 with crazy ending, which I do not fully understand, but I had examples of all this stuff. And Majora's Mask was another example. Another thing that Pirandello is famous for is the idea of the mask, let me read this abstract. So Pirandello is fascinated by the ironies inherent or in the belief or in a single absolute identity. Many of his plays and prose writings center on the clash between a fixed notion of identity and the multifaceted nature of a man's role. And the problem of the shapelessness of identity offer both tragic and comic possibilities. And I think that this is captured also in Majora's Mask, right? You see in Majora's Mask the characters when and you see that both in a tragic and a comic way, sometimes even at the same time. I remember the Swordsmaster, who is very stoic until the third day, where he cracks and he hides in the backside of the building. He's hidden somewhere, I think, like in a sack or something, because until the earlier day he was doing a lot of big talk, right? And there's also the postman, I remember, also the sisters that run the farm. Like you see how. It's tragic and comic at the same time when things get real, the impending doom. But here's an angle that where I think that Majora's Mask is strictly superior than Pirandello. And again, maybe this is just stupid millennial way of thinking. But anyway, one thing that I really loved about Majora's Mask was that not only it encapsulated this idea, but it brought it one notch further. At least that was my interpretation. Every time you see somebody that you heal who died, right? Because you only get masks, I think, from dead people, if I am not misremembering, right?
Yeah.
So the idea is
unfortunately, when their souls are released because they healed, you get the mask. Yeah.
And the idea, in my opinion, the way I interpreted this is that, and their masks are always about I guess their more prominent feature, right? You get the musician's mask and then you have a guitar, etc., etc. And my interpretation of this is that it's the inverse of this concept here presented in the abstract, is the idea that everybody has to have a mask anyway. Nobody will always know you for who you are entirely. So once you realize that having a mask is inescapable, the mask is all that remains when you're gone. And so you want to be deliberate in painting your own mask, because that's all you leave behind. And yes, in a sense, it's a tragedy not being able to express yourself entirely as much as you would like. But once you realize that this is what it is, I think you can see how obvious. It feels kind of obvious, like to me. Like Link is obviously only able to pick up the public part of these characters, and maybe sometimes he can also get a glimpse of the inner workings when he heals them. But then that's what remains, nothing else. And I think that's a very interesting angle, which connects to all what we say right now, right? You always end up having a public face, and thinking that you want to be entirely natural, you want to be yourself, and the consequences will be what it will be, but that's who you are. In my opinion, that's inherently not true. You always have a mask, and that's all you leave behind.
You know why I love that? Because there's, the creator of Majora's Mask was not happy with his invention, let's just say, right? Mm-hmm. He did not necessarily want a remake to happen, and he felt like he couldn't find we could say it this way, he couldn't find his identity after he made Majora's Mask. It's like he doesn't find himself in there. And I'm like, wow, that's powerful. And thinking that, but I'm like, what is the public mask of the creator versus who he is internally that made him say that, right? So it ties beautifully to everything you've said as well. So, oh my goodness. Okay, so am I supposed to answer questions on the chat? Is that what's going to happen?
Yeah, how many of those are there? Oh shit, I hope
just a few. People say they're exhausted as well. Okay, well, it's only a few, so I'll answer them real quick.
Yeah.
Has Abner played Secret Hitler? No, but I have to play it. If you go to Handmade Seattle media page, I talked to Loris Crow. I interviewed him. We reversed roles, right? And then he recommended Secret Hitler, so I have to play Secret Hitler. You'll see. Maybe tonight. We'll see. Abner, how thou are so cool. I'm not super cool. I'm cold. Okay. And what are some tips for someone just getting into low-level programming and Handmade? Join the Handmade network, either the Discord or the forums, and just ask questions. The people there, like Martins Mosaico, Simon Ancieux, if I said that correctly, and others, are just bottles of knowledge ready to burst and to give you some help. And then Andrew, is that question for me or for you, Loris? Once we are vaccinated, will you come hang out with me?
It's for you. It's for you.
In Portland. Andrew's gonna cook for me. I love that. Yes. And see if you can buy some chocolate wine, and then I'll go. I'll do a road trip. I promise. Cool. Have you considered making your own programming language at some point? No. I think either JAI or Zig or Odin. Those are my 3 top contenders of a language that can replace my love for C, right? So let's just wait and see what happens. I think, given everything I've said, it seems like Zig is positioned to eke out a victory, but Odin's also there, JI is also there. They're not too far behind in terms of popularity. Right? So we'll see what happens. What's your favorite chocolate wine? I'm a cheap person. Choco Vine. So Google Choco Vine. That's the one I like. A simple person.
Okay.
All right.
That's it then. That means then that we finally can take a break. And Abner,
thank God.
Are you still okay? Can you do the second half?
Yeah. I hope the second half if you give me a good break.
Okay, so let's say it's gonna be a 10-minute break with maybe a couple minutes more. So please be patient with us. So see you everyone soon.
Thanks for the interview.
So everyone, still a few seconds remaining. Also, I think we will need like 1 or 2 minutes more. But in the meantime, as a reminder, please, if you want to join the Zig RUSH, if you have a short demo to present, please join the waiting room. In the Showtime Discord server, there's a voice channel called Waiting Room. There we go. August is already there. And getting there, you will be muted in the channel. Like that's a channel where nobody can speak, so don't freak out about that. Wait there. I'll message you and give you instructions on how to prepare. Make sure that you have everything ready. Share your screen. Please just be, again, as usual, I'm not going to enforce like hard limits on the time that you take to present stuff, but try to be mindful of others and try to have clear ideas on what you want to present. And that's pretty much it. Also, where is Dan? I know that Dan had awesome OS stuff to present. Dan, this is a call. So here we go. As you can see by the new spiffy graphics, Zig RUSH, no more working title. So Abner, how are you?
I'm better. It was a good break. I have energy again. Let's do it.
Nice.
Show me Zig. Let's see.
Okay. Let's see. Let's start with August, who wanted to. He was the first to join. So let me send a message. As usual, I tell people mute the stream first. Actually, oh, that's already written there. And tell me when you're ready. Okay. We got confirmation. Let's pull August in. Hello.
Oh, hello, Loris. So I'm presenting something about LV2 today. So LV2 is like, wait, let me just explain, I guess, the background first. I have made like a little 2-slide presentation.
Okay.
So
One second.
It's called Zig plus LV2 is POG. Oh.
Okay, I can see it. Yes.
So that's great. So let's go for the presentation mode here.
Yes.
And you know, I'm August. I'm a student, and I'm in Ziguana now. I'm also the creator of ZLS. I'm gonna bring that up because I love the karma from that. You know, you do it once and you just bring it up forever.
You
People
need to make
like
it.
you,
Yes, that's very wise of you. Yes,
exactly. And I'll also beg for stars and followers. So here's my GitHub, and here's the actual repo of what I'm talking about today. So you know, give it stars, please. So, anyways, LV2 is just this really cool audio interface. So the backstory behind it is that my friend asked me to make like a VST plugin for them. So VST is like this like instrument, like it's this I I guess, extension protocol for like instruments or filters for DAWs. It's like for, how could you say this? Like for audio creation in general. That's a good way to put it. And so what's the interesting thing about VST though is that it's owned by Steinberg. And when I saw that, I was like, wow, that's pretty interesting. It's closed source essentially. It's closed source. You have to license it. You have to pay them, I imagine, for packaging and stuff like that. And so, you know, as the internet would have it, there's like a rule 32, like the rule 34 for like open source software. Like whenever there's closed source software, there's probably always an open source alternative. I Googled that and I found LV2. So LV2 is this great thing. It's
by the way, wait. You're still showing Chrome. You're aware of that? Okay.
Oh wow, oopsies. That's a problem. Oops. So let me screen my entire screen here. So this is LED SPA, right? And LV2 is based on that. So it's this great thing. It's royalty free and it's open source. So that's all I'm looking for, right? It's great.
Okay.
It's essentially everything that VST does, and it's implemented in lots of software too. And so I programmed it in Zig.
Right.
So I remember today, like at the beginning of today, you were like, you want me to convince like C users to switch to Zig, right? So a cool thing about Zig is using C code. I hear him using like C import, which essentially imports all the LV2 headers and stuff without any like having to write manual like bindings to the actual C code. Like there's no FN extern or there's nothing like that, right? Everything is just, it works instantly. And so all this works. Like I made like a tiny little wrapper around it. It's a little more convenient to use. That's about it. And so a cool example here is just an amp plugin. So it's just, you know, LV2.plugin. You have the URI, you have the handle, and you have like the simple run function. It's like 30 lines of code, which is actually easier to write than the like official like C code example. So that's great. You know, Zig is fantastic in that way. And so compiling that is easy. The interesting thing about Zig, like the reason I chose Zig was because the build system for like the official LV2 stuff is awful. It's a thing like called wafflib or whatever. And it's like Python scripts on top of Python scripts. And it's a nightmare to install. And build.zig just looks like this. It's 23 lines of code and does all of that so easily. It's kind of hacky specifically because I made this in like 5 minutes. Yeah. But yeah, I can build any example. So I can build amp, I can build fifths, all of that very easily. That's pretty cool. And I can show you the like actual plugins. I only made 2, and they're kind of both really minimal because I just started work on this. But this one is amp. So I think I have to share Reaper for this specifically.
Yes.
Because you also can't hear the audio.
Exactly.
Because Discord is weird like that. But here is Reaper. You can hear the synth, right?
Yes.
Pretty simple. Well, my amp plugin is programmed in Zig. It's LV2. Can just change the gain so I can make it a little more quiet, a little louder, which is going to not too much, but
yeah, thank you.
So it's written in Zig, which is pretty cool. It's pretty simple. Another fun plugin is fifths. I have to share my entire screen for this one. So essentially my idea was we're going to play out the official examples in Zig. And I didn't finish this, but this one is just really simple. It accepts a MIDI input. And it logs it to a text file at the moment. It's supposed to be something else, but I ran out of time. So this is really hacky. So let me just go with this. And,
that's awesome. I love it.
I'll just add it here. Hopefully this doesn't crash. It didn't crash. That's great. You see the test file, right? This log.a file?
Yeah.
If I place some notes here, it writes the MIDI data to this. It's like the struct because I haven't analyzed it yet. But it's just a fun thing, right? And later on, I'll just be able to like get the notes that they're playing and actually play the fifths, which is like a musical term that I do not know because I don't know anything about music or audio engineering, by the way. So it's like, random thing. Yeah, it's just like a fun little project I've been working on.
Yeah.
It's a work in progress. And this is the link, by the way. Please give me stars.
Yeah, put it in chat.
Okay, I'll put it in chat.
I love how he used Zig to import C code very easily, apparently. Also to use Zig as the build system, right? And then also just wrote some C code as well, Zig code as well, sorry. So you used Zig both to write Zig code, import C code easily, and also use Zig as the build system, like all three in one. And I love that so much. Yeah.
This is the Triforce.
Thank you.
That would take a lot more work. I admit, with C. So.
Definitely.
There are no macros here either, huh? You guys hate macros?
Yeah.
0 macros.
Yes. No macros.
Very cool. Damn. Yeah, and it's open source.
Thank
I'm gonna
you.
take a look at that tonight. Yeah.
That was awesome, August. Thank you very much.
Ah,
Thank you, Loris.
Every single time, these are super neat demos. Hats off to you. Please give him stars. Feed him more stars.
I will give you the stars after this. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Ghost. Let's move to the next person. So let's go with Megan. Now we need a sec so that I can properly coordinate. Okay. Mute stream and tell me when you're ready.
On the next one, this was really cool already. It's like using 3 parts of Zig in one, right?
Yeah.
Zig as the build system, Zig as useful system for C bindings, and C for brevity, just writing just a few lines of Zig itself. So
It's
all
the
all three in
Triforce.
one.
Yeah, it's the Triforce.
Triforce.
And the funny thing is that also you can use defer to clean up resources and stuff, which is...
Yes. I miss defer so much from C, for sure. And there are people who have like hacky macros for defer that I don't think work in scoped context inside functions or something. And it's like, ugh, I want it built in. So I'm glad that Zig has that. Yeah.
Okay, let's go. Hi, Megan.
Oh.
Hello. What are you showing us?
I didn't. There was a couple projects I wanted to work on, but I didn't get them in time for the demo. But I did have something cool that I finished. So let me share just a window because Discord is also weird about having dual monitors.
Interesting. Okay.
So this is my project. It's called Zigmod. It's one of the community package managers for Zig right now. Zig is going to be getting an official one, but that's a little while down. But yeah, you can use this right now. This is what the manifest looks like. You can import C code if you want, add all your C flags, and build it all right in. But what I wanted to show off today was I added this license command that will show you all of the licenses for the dependencies in your projects, and that's deep. So if any of your dependencies have dependencies and they have this, let me bring this down a little bit. If they define
they have their own
this license value, it will show up in this list. And actually, if they don't, it'll still show up in this unspecified list. And then you can go look into it. And because MIT is a SPDX approved license identifier, it also gives you this URL to more details about the license text. So I can add that back. And then say we add this other library that happens to have a different license that I know about. It groups them by the license that they have.
Wow, that's so nice. That makes total sense. The life of open source people when it comes to license, it's not always easy, right? You have sometimes licenses that sneak into dependencies of dependencies and can even be not compatible.
Yeah, definitely. If this was to be developed further, is to have some sort of detection for incompatible licenses. It would just depend on building up that data of which licenses are incompatible with other ones. And then
I love that immediate clarity that you get for that, because even for my terminal project, which I've said doesn't have a lot of dependencies, I'm trying to keep it minimal. I'm still importing a few single header file libraries, right? And I still have at least one compiled library and stuff. So I would love to organize these in a way such that it's so visible for me to know what the licenses are. Especially if I'm planning to release the terminal, I need to know what things I'm linking against that have licenses and which licenses are those. And like, I haven't done that experiment. I started this in 2018, terminal. And up to this day, I haven't checked the licenses properly for some of the libraries. So it would be a good time to do that with this.
Right. Yeah. So I can imagine like being able to have all that information at a glance can be handy.
I think this is like very nice tooling to have. We have I know that we have a bit of a how can I say, we steal good ideas, and some people don't like it, but hey, it's there, we can take it. Sorry. And that's one idea that I think should totally be stolen from you and added to the official package manager when it comes out. Like, I really think that this is a aspect of tooling that is not strictly about like managing versions, but actually it's real.
Right. Yeah, I stole this from Cargo.
Oh, you did? Good job.
Yeah.
Good job. I approve.
Thanks. But yeah, Cargo has a wiki page on like a bunch of like third-party commands. And then so I went through that list one day and was like, this one's good, this one's good, this one's good. And so that was one of the ones that I had already implemented. And I was like, this is a good idea. I'm going to add it to zigmod.
Awesome. That was really nice. Thank you, Megan. That was a really nice demo.
That was my demo.
You get a star too.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay. We have Dan. Dan
Bokser? I know this person.
Oh, you know Dan? Oh yeah, that's Dan Bokser.
I believe so. Yeah, I believe we've met in person and everything at the conferences. Yeah.
Oh, I had no idea. Okay, so wow, there's a lot of lore there that I wasn't aware of. Okay, mute the stream. Tell me when you're ready. Awesome.
Or maybe it was GDC as well, because I think I had a lunch with Handmade people in GDC, and Dan Bokser was there as well. So yeah, we have a good relationship, good friendship. And he's using Zig. Yeah. Okay. Wow, that's another good starting point for me. Just Handmade people using Zig already. Okay.
Okay, let's see. I think we might need to give Dan a couple of minutes. It's fine. By the way, Andrew was asking like weird questions in chat. He was asking, has Abner seen the default allocator that Zig test uses? I don't know.
Default allocators? I thought everything was explicitly allocated. You have to create your allocator.
Yeah, he's talking about the test allocator, and which is an allocator. It's one allocator. It's just called test allocator and does test allocating stuff. But yeah, I think Andrew should like just show up in the channel and demo it. Oh, you're in the waiting room. Okay, great. So then, okay, then he's not replying. So okay, let me do this, Andrew. I'll tell Dan to wait, and you go first. So start muting the stream, Andrew. I'll pull you in a moment. Oh no, Dan is ready. Never mind. So let's do Dan, and then Andrew, you go after. It's hard when people are trying to order. Oh, Dan, damn it! I just saw that you wrote in chat. Don't write in chat. Reply to me in Discord. Damn it. Okay. Hi, Dan.
Oh.
You need to unmute yourself, by the way, just so you know.
Daniel? Mr. Bokser?
Let's go.
Wait, hold on, I can't hear him yet.
We're getting there. Let's give him a moment.
Yeah, live in Technicolor.
Oh, there we go.
All right, cool. All right.
Hi,
and I also have...
Hey, there you are.
Hey.
You are the Dan Bokser, right? I don't have this wrong.
Ooh, we're getting a webcam.
Yes.
It's you. Exciting.
It's you.
Yes.
Hello,
okay.
Yeah. No, I've been to Seattle twice. And, no, well, I think I've been to Seattle twice, but I went to Handmade, the first Handmade conference, and then I went to GDC. And, yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Look at you hanging out in Zig. I love that. Yes. What the heck? What a
yeah.
surprise.
So I mean, part of this project was like I wanted to write an operating system. I guess like inspired. I've always wanted to really write an operating system, but like inspired by a lot of the you know some of the stuff, just like dealing with everyday dealing with Linux, dealing with Mac OS, and so and I love C, and like I program a lot in C, but like I thought like Zig was like a good medium between Rust and C. And so I remember trying to program it in Rust, and like I don't know, it was like the borrow checker was too much friction. It was like too much. So, but Zig was a great medium between the two. So let me share my screen. Do you see my screen?
Not yet.
No. Okay. All right.
What's your face?
All right. So let me share. Let me analyze Twitch. Let me share my screen. Oh no. Do I have to authorize Mac OS to do this?
Oh, you.
Oh boy.
Oh, you haven't jumped through the Apple hoops. Yes, and you know
Yeah,
what?
You
need to reboot
like,
Discord.
Yeah, I think yeah.
You know what? We are here and we are waiting for you. No worries.
Okay, thank you.
Do your
Yeah,
boot.
Right.
absolutely. Yeah.
All right, so yeah, let me restart Discord.
Yes. No trouble.
Closed ecosystem strikes again. Mac OS.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's.
Yeah.
I'll be honest. I like the strict permission system. I don't like apps doing weird shit all the time. On Windows, there's this spasmodic Adobe daemon that has to check for updates every 3 seconds. If you don't have the latest freaking Adobe thing, like the image of the guy with with veins, right? That's the Adobe updater. I haven't checked for updates in 3 seconds.
Yeah. I mean, at the very least, I like Apple's approach to, especially like the privacy stuff and their branding around that. That's great. Like,
yeah, but
Right.
you pay the price in the annoyance.
Pay the price.
Yeah. All right. Let me share my All right. Now.
Mhm.
All right. So let me
webcam and
go
screen.
live.
Webcam and screen.
Oh.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So let me wait. Do I not have my? There we go.
Yes.
Cool. All right. And so I am showing I'm sharing my screen. I see that. Okay. Cool.
Yes.
All right. So
Yes, you are.
So as a quick note, I I've been working on this operating system for I guess over a year and a half, definitely more during quarantine.
Yeah.
And I've been I stream once or twice a week development, and so let's see here. So if you got this is the operating system. It doesn't do anything. So right now it's more of a ring zero application than like a real traditional operating system. But I do have I do have multiple things implemented, and one thing I have right now is multi-core support. Everything, the GUI runs on the main thread, and then the Bitcoin miner runs on the other threads.
Mhm.
I was going to ask about that.
I don't know, like I'm not really into crypto, like insofar as like the financial aspect. I'm more, I don't know, I get like into phases of like understanding how like the mining works. And so
I believe you, because it's Ethereum is where it's at. It's not.
Oh yeah,
Bitcoin.
of course, that's true.
I want to mine Ethereum these days, but
that is true. Yeah, that's the. I think that is. I think Ethereum is like the number one mined right now, but
my
Bitcoin
taxes are gonna suck because I got some Ethereum last year. It's like.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, but but Bitcoin is a lot easier to implement. So, because it's just SHA-256, and luckily Zig actually has a built-in SHA-256 library. So, so I wrote. So I thought this was like a good test to see how fast things run on like bare metal versus on like running this in user space on Linux or something like that.
Yeah.
So that's kind of why I wrote this. But actually, I was kind of a failure in and I have more research to do because actually, the same code runs faster on Linux. So I'm not sure why. So I have to kind of figure that out, and that's probably a pretty good learning exercise. So
Yeah.
this block on actual so the operating system actually runs on desktop hardware. It doesn't just run on QEMU. Though I will say it runs on my desktop. I have not tried it on any other desktop or any other
Let me
computer.
just pause here and say this is staggering. This is staggeringly amazing that you're able to run an actual kernel that drives hardware, right? Like, and you've been streaming this. Oh, I'm streaming a whole operating system for a whole year now. Okay,
Thank
like,
you.
so casually. No, this is fucking awesome.
Thank you. So I mean, I want to. So what was I going to say? So on hardware, this runs at 880 seconds, I believe, for this block that I picked a couple of days ago. And for those who don't know how Bitcoin works, Bitcoin is to mine a block. What you do is you see all these nonces that are these numbers that are increasing. It basically tries to hash like this number with a bunch of other data, and if the result is less than some number, then it's considered mined. And so for this particular block on hardware, it takes about 880 seconds, I think. On Linux, it took about 807 seconds. So so that's probably a pretty good learning exercise. So that's another thing from developing this is that, you learn why things are behaving the way it should. And I actually, one thing I actually wanted to do and I forgot to do, and I know I'm probably running low on time here.
No worries. Take your extra time.
And just to clarify, you're writing this. The three of us talking at the same time. Sorry. So
yeah.
Zig, you're writing this in Zig,
Yes,
in a freestanding mode.
Yes. So it's compiled using Zig's built-in UEFI library.
Then, by the way, in case you didn't catch it from earlier, don't worry. Take your time, as we don't have a huge queue. So, and this is definitely more than interesting enough.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So, so this is it's all written in Zig except the build script, which is still written in Bash. But eventually I will change that to Zig. I can't see the chat right now, so I'm not sure. I should have had. Maybe I should get up on my phone. But
they got caught up on the crypto.
Oh, really? Okay. Let me get on my phone. Hold on.
Pasting OS. Is that the actual name of it? Pasting OS?
Yeah, so it's not, well, it's
the history behind that.
So actually, here's a fun thing. If I rerun it, it's now Lift OS. So I actually have a word list that I got from, I just like took the words from, I think the original Macintosh manual, because that was also kind of the inspiration of like why I wanted to do this, is because like I'm a huge Apple fanboy, and like I don't know, like, and if you notice that this font is actually the original font of the original Macintosh, but I kind of was motivated to do this after multiple incidents with Macs. I have a long history with Macintosh, and a lot of it is okay to not so good, or but I kind of wanted to like have that feel of like like eventually I kind of want to have that feel of like the original Macintosh, of like, you know, intuitiveness and like user friendliness and stuff like that. And so actually one of the philosophies is, I don't know if I'm going to have a command line really on this operating system. So that's I'm kind of scattered here, but there's multiple things. I'm looking at the chat now. Yeah, I'm using a freestanding UEFI. So another thing is that this GUI is written in an immediate mode GUI standard, as is very popular among the Handmade community. But you know, I do like the IM GUI, and I want to see how far I can get with it. I know most, you know, there is really no OS that exists that uses like an immediate mode GUI as its default GUI. Everything's retained mode. So I wanted to see how far I can get with that. So that's another thing.
So far, so good.
Thank you. So another thing is, the reason I restarted it is I wanted to enable the profiler here. And so I have a profiler here. Obviously, this is running on my MacBook Pro on an emulator. So, and while streaming on OBS, so I'm not going to get, you know, great timings. But I feel like another thing was I wanted to really know how long things took, and try and like, you know, have an idea early on of how, you know, how long things take. And that's why I have the profiler here right now at such an early stage.
Yeah, I was gonna ask like how early you had the profiler.
I had it, yeah.
Or if you had a profiler at all, but looks like you had it from the very beginning almost.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, also, it's kind before this for Handmade, Abner, I don't know if you remember, and Loris, I don't know if you know this, but I worked on
Game Boy emulator?
the Game Boy emulator, and it had a profiler, and I kind of took a lot of the code from that and put it into here, which is pretty cool to have that shared code. But and that was written in C++. But yeah. So another thing is I have text. So I have a mouse, as you can see, which is a square, and then I have text working, and I don't have insert mode working yet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and so this is the text box, and so I don't have. I think if I hit enter, maybe I forgot to put that in. I thought if I hit enter, it should clear. Hold on 1 second. Oh yeah, I hit enter, and so I have like limited functionality with with the text. I don't know how much. Hold on. Let me see if I can quickly find where I use it. But yeah, so that I'm not going to remember offhand where I think it's like down here somewhere, but I'm not going to try and find that. But I have some notes of like, as a a quick thing of like where I want to go with this in the future.
Excellent. That was my next question. Like, how far are you planning to take this?
Yeah, so I do want to take this as far as it can go. It's not currently open source. I don't know if I'm going to open source it. I'm really kind of undecided on that. I know
this is the Handmade versus Zig ideals again, right? Like,
yeah,
sometimes
exactly.
we want to keep things.
And I really do, I try and open source, like the Game Boy emulator open sourced, and like I have like a bunch of stuff on my GitHub. I'm working on like another project involving a Pico 8, and I open source some stuff with that involving like the Pico 8 font. But I kind of want to. I know there are like models like Serenity OS is a good inspiration. Like I know that's fully open source. But and obviously you have Linux versus Windows mentality, I guess. But honestly, what I do want to do is, if I can take this as far as I can go, I feel open source is really important for auditability. You really want to know how you're operating. Like, it doesn't feel right to put out an operating system that doesn't have the source code. So, like, if it comes to a pretty good point where it's a pretty good shape, at that point I'd probably open source it, at least release the source
Yeah.
code.
Could take it in stages too. That's how
Yeah.
the JI compiler is trying to be. As far as I know, John still wants to release the compiler closed source, then eventually have a permissive license, and then make it open source at the end, right?
Yeah,
So I don't think that's bad. I don't think
sounds
that's
like a
bad.
good model. Yeah, that's not bad. That's not a bad model. I might consider that. Another thing, and I know this has been talked about, was kind of reduce the number of programs running on the operating system at once. I did like a quick inspection of a empty Windows, just sitting at the desktop on Windows. It was running over 100 processes and stuff like that. And I kind of want to try and see if I can design an operating system that, that kind of gets away from that. I kind of want to make the operating system application based, kind of like Mac OS in that sense. So that's kind of a philosophy of that.
You mean like how Mac bundles its applications or libraries as framework bundles that has everything inside of it? Okay.
Correct. Yeah, everything's bundled. Unlike, say Linux. Like, I kind of want to get rid of. I'm kind of going the extreme opposite of Linux insofar as, I kind of want each application to have everything statically compiled. Like, it doesn't even have to be statically compiled, but I mean that's how Zig works. So that's kind of a plus also with Zig, is that everything is really, when you include a library, it's compiled in, and that's kind of a framework I kind of want to adopt. And also, I forgot my point.
About making things like Mac a little bit there.
Yeah, kind of just like more application focused, as opposed to, I guess. This was the big point, was that how on Linux was, you can't, the portable binary, right? The portable binary problem. You can't drag one binary from one version of Linux to another. And I kind of want to try, because of incompatibilities with the different, dynamically linked libraries and libc, and this worked under SDL 2.0.1 but doesn't work under 2.0.3 and stuff like that. But if the library is compiled in, then you don't have to worry about that, right? Obviously the downside of that is that your binaries grow in size, but maybe that could be a good point of, not including 5,000 libraries in your code. I mean, it's really kind of like an experiment, and maybe maybe these ideas won't amount to much, but I kind of want to try and see if we can use these ideas to make an operating system.
I have two more questions for you.
Yes.
One is about code size, which somebody in the chat asked about it. I would ask that question a little more explicitly. How do you manage code size as you keep growing your operating system? Are you concerned about code size as a metric at all, or do you just let things grow indefinitely? What's your strategy there?
I mean, that I haven't. I mean, that is a good point. I do want to, as you see, I actually have how many bytes, are loaded to RAM. Right now, the entire kernel is 6 megabytes. So I think that's, I mean, obviously I want to keep an eye on this, and obviously also the binary itself. if we look at the binary, kernel.elf, this is what 1 megabyte.
Because like for
That's the
better or
elf.
for worse, right? Operating systems size is what people really care about. Like when they get their new machine and they look at the C drive letter, right, and see how much the OS took.
Then there's also the
you're talking about disk drive. Exactly. Yeah. So in terms of application, what I was just talking about, and that is, I guess that is something. I mean, obviously, that's always something I have in mind when considering this. And maybe it turns out to be a failed experiment where every application is the size of Call of Duty, where it's 200 gigabytes per application. I don't want it to get to that point. That's not the goal.
Exactly.
And that's something to really keep in mind, with the direction I'm going, and definitely.
Even if you don't open source it, this is the last thing I'll say, because this is really blowing my mind. I had no idea you were doing this operating system in Zig. It would be great if you could at least write blog posts occasionally, so that people can like get hooked into it a little more, not just streaming. People sometimes love reading blog posts, especially developers. It's like the natural way to consume information.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I'll be honest, I don't like writing. And so, and I know, Loris, you've touched on this, where you like, and I have to, and I know I have to kind of get through that, and I do have to write, and that is definitely a good point. And I think in the future I'll definitely start writing some blog posts about things that I've learned, and how this works and how that works. But yes, thank you. But
forward to it.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So yeah. No. So yeah. So with that, should I answer questions on the chat, or?
I think that Abner relayed the questions.
Yeah, I think the most important ones I tried to cover as catch-all questions. So yeah.
Cool. All right. So I think this is this is it. So I stream twice a week. Thanks for having me on, and I hope to do more show and tells of progress. And keep follow my Twitter at dbokser. dbokser.
Probably talk about assuming the conference for Seattle for Handmade can happen physically. You and I should get in touch. See if we can feature your operating system, because oh my god.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, definitely. I mean, it is hard to. I mean, I'm in New York, so it is hard to get out to Seattle. But
it's wait and see. Yeah,
definitely wait and see. But definitely, I will. Definitely let me know if if that happens, and we'll keep in touch.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dan. By the way, I think you can leave a link in chat to your Twitter if you want people to follow you.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Okay,
Second thing, for everybody else, know that whenever Dan is streaming, if he does a good job and puts Zig in the title, Suzie will bump him up in the streamer category, both in the main Zig Discord channel and in the Showtime one. So that also gives you an opportunity to catch his streams. And for now, I also recommend to just, follow and ring the bell on his channel, and maybe in the future Suzie, the bot, will also send out notifications. For now, it doesn't do that. So yeah.
So yeah, I guess I could stop sharing my screen, but I've been using Suzie. That's what I want to say.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so yeah. Thank you for Suzie. So
you're welcome.
Okay. All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Dan.
See you later.
Okay, 2 more people. So, Shuttler67. Okay, that's somebody new, I think. Yeah. Ooh. Right.
For him to
Okay, let's go.
join up.
Hi, Shuttler.
Oh,
Am I on?
Yes, you're on. You're on stream. Hello.
Oh wow. Maybe I should share video.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hello.
Yes, it's a debut for me. I've been lurking around in the Zig community without talking or saying anything. Yeah, I just wanted to just decide to come out of the closet. I don't have very much to show, but a little bit. A little project I've been working on. From Norway, and I'm studying mathematics actually. And specifically, lately I've been interested in cryptography. So very interested of that talk by I forgot his name.
Frank Denis, Jedi Sector 1.
The one where he talked a lot about the cryptography library in Zig or something.
Okay, yeah, that's definitely Frank Denis.
Yeah, Frank, yeah. So it's very interesting to read the talk.
One of my best friends at NASA, who's an engineer and does programming, has a background in math, right? So that's like a perfect degree to get. Thinking abstractions, right? It's really good. Yeah.
Well, what I wanted to show is not very much like showy and not like a huge OS or something. Let's see. I don't know what the best way to do it. I guess my whole screen or.
It's up to you. If you're showing more than one window, then definitely the whole screen. Otherwise,
yeah,
it's up to you. By the way, you can also change it on the fly. So,
well, now we get lots of
there we go.
Discord.
Yeah.
There. Oh wait, now this.
See things.
There we go. Okay. So what I've been working on is my own cryptographic protocol for exchanging handshakes. So
hardcore, my God.
So on the left here we have the server, which I'll just run.
Can you increase the font size a little bit? Is it? I hope it's not too hard.
I'm not so sure how I do that.
Maybe Control and then plus or the mouse wheel. There we go.
Okay, let's just clear this. Yeah, I just use Windows because of gaming and stuff.
What do you play?
Lately I've been playing Witcher 3 and Dark Souls 3.
Okay. Oh, wow.
So hardcore. This guy's hardcore all the way from gaming to programming.
Solid choices.
Well, I don't know. I'm not so very good at the games, but I try a lot. Okay, so let's just run the server again. Okay. So now it's just listing a random network. And then we have the client. And then they talk. And they send a bunch of stuff to each other. So
I see.
What we have. Okay, so what we have here is we have the client saying a hello message, which gives a public, since it's public key for authentication, along with some random string. And I've been basing this protocol off the TLS 1.3 protocol, which is for what they use for the standard for HTTPS and a lot of security protocols. But like cutting out a lot of extension stuff. And I only have one one hash function and one cryptographic protocol. that's life simpler.
Right, that's more than enough.
And then I adjust myself that I'll update it when it gets outdated. But we thought no.
Out of curiosity, are you using anything from the standard library, or is everything from scratch?
I just using the standard library. I mean, like I haven't programmed the only. I just wanted to get something working.
I see.
I was more interested in like the structure of the protocol and how you send this stuff because
Oh,
Makes total
I'm
sense.
sort of more familiar. I'm familiar. Get the idea that there's some protocols which can signature that you can sign stuff and encrypt stuff, but I just wanted to put it together and get it to work.
Hmm.
So then the server receives this message, and then I guess the only interesting thing is that they both then the server calculates its own public key for just because it receives a public key from the client that it wants to encrypt, and then it
Yeah.
generates its own public key, and then they mix together with
Yeah, they do the double lock, right?
the Diffie-Hellman exchange, and then they generate a secret key. So we see it's a success because these two secret keys are the same.
Right.
And then what's important, I realized in cryptography, is the idea of authentication. Though it's very important because otherwise you can have someone in the middle who just can pose as the one who's reading. So then the server will send a different public key for authentication then to the client. So that means that he says, okay, this is my public key. It never changes. Remember me if you want to talk to you in the future. So the idea is that you can just store a list of known public keys that you trust and then reject everyone who's not that public key. Nowadays, if you're on the internet and stuff, you have to rely on a bunch of certificate authorities that have a list of public keys, and then those
right.
are the ones that are trusted. But I just wanted something like private that you locally update. So
Hmm.
I'm glad that you're
you know
interested
what's
in
the
in encryption because I think my experience with encryption is very limited, right? So like if I have, say, a bot that talks to a chat, like let's say I have a build bot that talks to a Slack channel so that people can compile their programs using the bot, right? So I might write that bot in Java or C++ or Zig, whatever. And I can try to be secure by saying, let's not use password credentials as like raw strings. That's like disgusting, right? But let's at the very least have the Slack API offer what do you call it, like a signing secret or a token-based authentication method, that's not really encryption, right? But at the very least, I could try to use X or cipher against that token string instead of baking it raw into the program. Like, that's not good. So like, right
well,
now the
I
bots
mean,
that
I
I
don't
write. What
know.
do you think?
It's
Okay.
like you have to know what you're doing when you write do cryptography. It's like if you try to do something, if you're not familiar with it, then it's very easy to get something wrong. I mean, I'm not entirely sure
Something
if what
wrong.
I've done is even secure at all.
Hmm. Right.
I just like I sort of follow this TLS guidelines, and they do some smart
Is that your
stuff.
plan?
So.
Is your plan to become more of an expert on this sort of matters?
Yeah, it's at least one of the discussions. But I mean, there's lots of interesting things in math. It was only recently I've been thought about cryptography, and it's just like a side project.
Fair enough.
I haven't had
Yeah,
much time
very
to
cool.
do it, but yeah.
You know what would be a life hack? Let me recommend a life hack to both of you. Join the main Discord server, or actually you can do that also with the Zig Forum, and ping Frank. Ask him an opinion. Abner, you can ask Frank if he can recommend you actually stuff in the standard library. I believe that we have in the standard library a box abstraction that allows you to box some secret and unbox it on the other hand. And again, maybe I'm getting it wrong, but Frank will be able to let you know. And I guess it's the same can also apply to authentication schemes, to handshake schemes. I'm sure that Frank can give some guidance. So that's the.
Because we're all wrong here except Frank. We gotta talk to Frank.
I mean,
like that.
at least you can
I will
blame
give it.
him. Like you can say, well, the author of Libsodium got it wrong. So what do you want from me?
Nah.
Oh, but this is a cool experiment. I love it. Yeah, all in
Yeah,
Zig too.
well, my main idea with using this is I actually want to set up like a local network of my own where I can do file sharing that's secure and maybe a password manager as well. So those are the long-term goals.
Very nice. Well, thank you very much for this demo.
Absolutely. Thanks for showing us this.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Enjoyable.
I hope to see you more in the community. Well, I mean, if you want to.
Hang out with us
Yeah.
more. Say hello. Yeah.
Actually, I don't blame anybody for lurking. That's the. I wish I could. Actually,
Yeah, I've been lurking for quite a while now. I think I came to Zig before when you just put out your first videos.
Ooh, okay. Wow.
It's been a while. But I'm too shy.
It's fine. Enjoy the show. Well, thank you very much. We have one last person, I think, to the showcase. So let's see. Oh no, there's GW1 also. So Shuttler, should I pull you out of the channel? I think you should restart the stream. Sorry, unmute the stream now. Okay.
Yep.
Bye. Holy shit, that's GW1. Okay.
Handmade has a lurking problem as well. I mean, lots of lurkers that I only randomly meet like once a year when I see them, and they're like at the conference, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I hang out in the chat all the time, and I know everything you're talking about." And I'm like, "What? But I've never seen you." Some people would like to lurk, and that's okay.
Yeah, I think that lurking is the ultimate strategy. The problem is that if everybody does it, then there's nothing to lurk for, unfortunately. So somebody has to be on the
it's
other
okay to
side.
have the lurkers who just work hard behind the scenes. That's completely fine. Yeah.
Okay, let's go. Holy shit, I'm curious. So, hello, GW.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. What are you going to show
Okay,
us?
so I'm gonna share my brainfuck compiler that I've been working on.
Let's go.
That is elf.
Oh.
Let's see. Can you see this?
One sec.
Give me a sec.
Yes, we can. We are seeing your terminal.
Yeah. Okay. So it makes an elf file out of the it just like without using any elf standard library stuff, and it compiles brainfuck to elf. So if we do, I found this at that's it's just like a Fibonacci sequence. So if we do zig build. Hopefully this works. I haven't tried it on the new version of Zig.
Oh no, that's
wow.
So we run it. That generates the assembly file.
Nice.
Or sorry, the object file for the elf, and then we do -a-out, and it's not complete yet. It just generates some garbage, but it kind of works. You can see up to 89. You get the Fibonacci numbers, and then I have to investigate what's going on here. I'm not really sure, but yeah. And if you see,
you know that Zig is officially popular when somebody's writing a brainfuck compiler with it. I love it.
In main.zig, we have all the command line stuff, then just all like the elf stuff, and then we have the definitions of all the elf structs. And then in code.zig, it's just very simple. Just parse the instructions and generate the output. And then some fancy stuff for blocks.
Wow. When are you adding optimizations, undefined behavior, or I don't know, fuck behavior? I don't know. I'm joking. I have no idea. That's awesome.
I'm not sure.
It's writing straight to ELF too, right?
So
that's the ELF binary format. That's amazing.
Yeah. No linkers or anything. I did this to like learn a lot of low-level stuff.
Yeah. So
100%.
Yeah, Abner, by the way, maybe this can help provide some context. GW is also GW. You're also working on the Stage 2 compiler, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this, I guess,
Oh,
it's
wow.
all exploration that makes sense when you're doing this stuff also for the main project. That's awesome, by the way. Yeah.
Thank you.
Wow.
Bravo.
All right,
Mind
that's
blown.
all I have to share.
That was very
Riding
nice.
straight to ELF like a boss.
Yeah, fuck
Skipping the link
linkers.
altogether.
Bam.
So good.
Brain
I love
fucked.
it. I'm here for it.
Brain fucked to instruction, like straight injected in the pupils. Yeah. Good job, Giuseppe. That was awesome.
Okay, bye. Thank you.
Thank you. It's time. I think it's time. We have the final boss. Are you ready, Abner?
Oh boy, who is it? Show me.
It's Andrew.
Boss.
Message ready?
Andrew who? Andrew Kelley?
Andrew Kelley.
Andrew Kelley?
Yeah, I don't know. He probably doesn't have much to show, to be honest. But
He better talk about chocolate wine and how he's gonna cook for me. I'm so excited for that.
Hey,
when
Andrew.
it happens.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, I'm on the stream now?
Yes, you're on the stream. Also, I think I could hear Abner, so be careful.
Oh, I just muted it. Yeah.
Okay.
That was GW1. That was sweet. I didn't realize you got that working already. That was really cool. Okay, don't worry, Abner. I will cook for you, and we will have chocolate wine. I promise you.
Andrew. Dang it.
Andrew, so we don't get a webcam? We don't deserve it?
Oh, yeah. You do. Is Hayes whispering in my ear? I'm confused.
You should say in streamer mode.
Oh.
Are they sending you?
Hey, Prodi on the chat is saying that Andrew makes a mean fried chicken. So looks like that's going to be part of the cooking ingredients.
Andrew, are you getting TTS messages?
What? What is that?
Text to speech.
Is that what it was?
I have no idea. You're the only one that can hear that. It's either that or you have schizophrenia. I don't know.
Oh, somebody was whispering in my ear. I don't know. Okay. So I have don't worry, my demo is not very interesting. Not very. I'm not the boss. I'm just a regular guy. But I just wanted to show this one.
Okay,
there you are.
Let's see if you can tempt
Let's see.
up there.
Okay, so you're seeing my terminal, right?
I can see this.
Okay, so I just wanted to show this off. So here we have a application code in Zig, and it could be anything. You could have your main here. It's fine, doesn't matter. You can just put tests in any file you want. And the nice thing is that the testing comes with a little allocator that you can use. So here I've just done a very simple memory leak. We have an array, we append, but there's no cleanup, right?
Yeah.
So if I Zig test, this is the output I get. So it says all one test passed, but one errors was logged, one test leaked memory. And I get a whole stack trace that points right here, line 9, where the memory was allocated but not freed. But if I do for unit, now I can run my test again, and we're good. So you just get that by default.
So simple, so straightforward.
That's nice. But what about a third-party tool that doesn't work on some platforms that requires you to learn the command line and stuff and all the false positives? I kind of miss that.
Well, we actually have really good Valgrind integration, but that's for another time. Okay, but wait, we're not done yet. Okay, so this is my double free example. So now we're doing a test here, and you can see here I allocate 10 I32s, and then I allocate 10 I32s again, and then I free one of them, and then oops, I free the same one, right?
Yeah.
Oops, I freed it again. No, never mind.
Okay, so I'll run the test.
God.
So this is double free error.
Double free detected.
So you actually get 3 stack traces here. One of them is okay, here's where it was originally allocated. You can see it's line 16. It's pointing right here. Okay, the first free happened right here. You can see it's line 19. Boom. the second free, this is the oops part, right? Line 20 right here. So here, you get the entire information you need to detect a double free just for free in your unit tests. And then we also got a memory leak because we didn't free the other one. Right? Because
wow.
if
Yeah, can you go back to the code here? I have questions
This one?
about. Yeah, so I still don't know where this allocator is coming from. Can you explain that again?
Oh, this one? Oh, yeah. So this is using the general purpose allocator from the standard library. So this allocator is available to you in debug builds. But this is just a shorthand for the purposes of unit testing. It just integrates with the unit test runner. So it's just convenient to grab it in a unit test and just because every library you're going to use in Zig, it's like this, right? You pass in the allocator that you want to use. And so when you write a unit test, you're gonna call into your regular code, but you're gonna pass it in the unit testing allocator. It's gonna give you all this handy dandy troubleshooting stuff for free.
Oh, I follow. Yeah, that's really cool. Okay.
So yeah, so if I fix it and then I run it again, we're good. Okay, but that's not all.
Test passed.
So now we're gonna do another one. Use after free. That one's even harder to detect. Right.
This is becoming like
free ones.
This is becoming gradually more and more advanced ways of messing things up, right? You know, like the meme where like you do the advanced stuff and then you land on the rake anyway.
C does not hold your hand. C does not give you anything here. We'll see what Zig does for all of them, but yeah.
Right. Okay. So example 3. Okay, we allocate 10, and then we initialize it so it's just like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up to 10. Every element gets the same as the index. Okay, we free it. Now we have no more memory. Okay, but now I'm going to access it right here. I've been using my mouse, but you can't see it, can you?
We can see when you select. No, actually, we can see.
Yeah, sorry. Yes.
Oh, okay. So here I'm accessing an index inside of the thing that I just freed, right? So this is a use after free. And then it doesn't really matter what I do afterwards. This is the problem, right? Okay, so let's go see what this does.
There's no way you can catch that. I mean, right?
Well, it's a seg fault.
Hold on, let me.
Okay.
Oh, so, seg fault. Yeah.
A seg fault. Now, a seg fault can be difficult to debug, but if the seg fault happens at exactly the correct place, which is what happened here, then we actually can give you a nice stack trace. So we weren't able to label this use after free, but we were able to catch it, and we were able to point at the use after free and give you a stack trace, just by having a seg fault handler and by carefully implementing the memory allocator so that you would get a seg fault in this situation.
Oh yeah, so and from there you can find slice 1, see where it's declared, see what it did before, and then you're good to go because you got that immediate location.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Now, you don't always get such nice, helpful. It's not always so helpful. So, for example, if I had allocated another one here, we wouldn't have been able to return the page back to. I'll even free it. I wouldn't have been able to return the page back to the OS. So we still have memory safety in this case, but we don't have such a nice debugging experience. So in this case, we're actually getting an index out of bounds later when we access the array. So this is going to take a little bit more troubleshooting. But what ended up happening is that this index, which was a use after free, it got set to the debug value, which is OXAAAA. It just populates it with 101010 bytes. And so that's, if you're looking at a debugger, actually we can do that right here. Run this thing, pass it the argument. So if we go up and we look at the index, you can see it's all A's, right?
Yes.
And that's the clue. Okay, that is a pointer. That's a memory that got released, right? That's undefined memory, and so it's very likely that this is going to trigger an array bounds exception. And so then you can look back and say, okay, why is this memory undefined? Oh, because I freed it, right? So you either going to get one of those two scenarios. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say that one of the users was just asking on the chat, like, how does this work? The memory allocator marks the pages as protected or something, and each allocation goes on their own page. Like, what's going on there?
Yeah, there's a if you want to see how it works, you can go to Zig code and look at general purpose allocator, and there's a little description up here of how it works. And the implementation is not that long, so this whole a lot of these are tests. The tests start at line 684. So this implementation's pretty readable. I think it's only 600 lines ish for how it works. I think it's pretty nice. Yeah. That's it. That's all I wanted to show.
Okay, not bad.
There's an element of jealousy for sure, because C does not play ball with you in terms of how to mitigate your memory allocation errors and how to improve your strategies. Like, that's not a thing the compiler will do. Like, it's not a thing, right? It just it goes from C to assembly, and I don't think it does much in any way of helping you, except for like semantic analysis stuff. Oh wow, I've been giving a bombardment of things that Zig can do. Okay, and I've been writing all of it down, by the way. Wow, I have to sit down and take a look at this. Yeah.
Oh, Andrew went already. Thank you, Andrew.
Yeah, I expect that fried chicken. So where's the?
Oh, we have Luuk. Wait. Oh, okay. Let's do the last one. Let's do Luuk. Oh, Andrew probably left because there's Luuk. Yeah, let's do the last one. I think Luuk is gonna be interesting, and I have also, and then we can say our goodbyes. So mute the. When you're ready. I'm so proud of being able to type, I don't know, 60, 70 words per minute. I'm getting there.
You and I should have a competition. I think I'm sitting at 120.
Holy shit. I don't think I'll be able to reach even at full speed. I just, my excuse is that I don't do this type of programming. I just program stuff that I don't know how to program, so I'm slower anyway. That's my excuse. Luuk, hello.
Cannot hear you guys yet. Can you guys hear?
Yes, we can hear.
Hello, we can hear you.
Luuk, no. Wait, let me type. We can hear you. What up?
Can you hear us? Hello.
Test.
You can hear me. One moment. I cannot hear you guys though. Just give me one moment.
No problem.
I switched to my working laptop because my PC doesn't have any what's it called?
Webcam.
Camera.
Yeah.
And for my demo, I will need a camera.
I think I know what's coming.
I'll take my time.
Yeah.
Maybe I should try to.
Should I be afraid of what's going to happen?
No.
I need to take a step back.
Can you re-invite me, Loris? Maybe that will work.
Okay. Oh yeah, occasionally Discord just borks. Hello.
I'm going to show you my jacket's Majora's Mask, by the way.
Nice. How's it, Luuk?
Wait.
Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Okay, it was my browser. Wow.
It's always the browser.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess I will be the boss of the show. Sorry, Andrew, stealing your title. Oh, no code demo from me this time. I do have something else to show. So within the Zig community, we do a lot more than just writing code. That looks awesome. And one of the things I've been working on for the past 4 months or something, it's been taking ages, is a Zig plushie.
Yes.
Oh my god. You guys, your branding game is just like insane. Handmade has to catch up. What the heck? What's this one called?
really high quality, actually. It's super soft, and it has the jetpack and everything.
And you should totally
Unfortunately,
buy
the helmet
it.
is a bit-
Unbelievable.
Yeah, the handmade community needs to catch up. Mayo, soy
Yeah.
sauce, everything.
We're a little behind on the branding game. You guys are getting us beat right now. That plushie is so cute. Oh,
I ordered
No,
10
right.
actually.
you ordered
So
10?
Yes.
Holy crap.
yeah, so I think in November I sent out a forum to ask people who are interested. I think I got 50 people who has shown interest. A few people never responded afterwards though, but I've already sent over 30 of them, and we'll be shipping out the others hopefully by Monday or Tuesday. Like 10 to Loris. He wants to be worshipped by his zeros, I guess. But I do have some leftovers, so check out any messages in the Showtime Discord server. There's a specific channel for the plushies, and I post there regularly with updates. So if there's people that are still interested, I do think I will have some leftovers, and I will let you guys know. Other than that, I do write Zig too. Found out Zig about a year ago. I've been writing ever since then, pretty much daily. Before that, my GitHub was pretty empty, and now it's just full of Zig contributions. Also worked a little bit on the compiler for the WASM backend. So hopefully this year we can fully complete that as well. So exciting stuff for Zig. And that's pretty much it for me.
Awesome.
So thank you for having me. It was a great interview, by the way. Really enjoyed it. Props for being so open about everything. Not easy to do. So yeah, looking forward to one day hopefully coming to Seattle and real convention rather than the online one.
Yeah.
It would be great to see you at Handmade Seattle for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
And if you bring plushies, I kind of want to steal one. I don't know.
No, I'm from Europe, so bringing those all with me on the plane might be a bit.
Oh no! Gosh darn it. Okay. Right.
But I'll try my hardest. Right.
Nice.
That's it from me. Have a good evening, all, and
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Luke.
Take it easy.
You're welcome.
Oof. What a wonderful community. Zig is definitely in the spirit of how I like to grow a set of people that just like are building a common goal together in the right ways, right? Like this seems awesome. So crazy experience. I'm so tired, like you have no idea. Just like being honest with you about everything about my life, explaining Handmade to you and learning about Zig from you. Like, wow. I'm ready to eat and take a nap.
Yeah.
Thanks for everything.
I believe you, Abner, and thank you for the effort that you're putting in. You know what? If we do happen somewhere on the same place, I can give you one of my 10 plushes. You don't have to worry.
You have reserved it for me. Let's keep that on the public record.
Yes. That's why I got 10. Like, I mean, I'm not Smaug. I'm not the plushie Smaug. So maybe I want to keep a couple. I don't know. But the others are to give.
I feel like it's time to expand my figurines. So I have like a shelf of like Majora's Mask stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm like, let's add some plushies now. I'm happy to add some Zig plushies. But don't worry, Handmade will catch up too. So then you're going to be asking for plushies from our end.
I'm looking forward to that too. So I think we can get near the conclusion. Don't leave. So people watching, don't leave the stream. Don't quit, because now we're going to close the stream, but there is somebody trying out Zig for the first time. While we were here doing stuff, I'm the Eye of Sauron all over Twitter, and somebody is trying out Zig for the first time. So as soon as this show ends, we are rating this person and we are getting them to from 0 to 0 with uppercase Z. That's the name of the mascot. So, Abner, closing thoughts are yours. And after this, I'll just call the end screen.
Yeah, thank you for the Zig community for listening to my rants and to my experiences with Handmade and how I want to see the world of software grow into loving low-level programming again. Like that's such an important thing of my life. I've been part of Handmade for 5 years. It's given me a lot of great job opportunities. Like even with the good and the bad, like I feel like I've grown so much as a person, and I feel like Zig is doing similar things to what we do. So I love that Zig people are joining Handmade and Handmade people are joining Zig because, and obviously there are other communities too. So let me just, the fact that I haven't mentioned them often, but Odin, for example, for Coder, for example, Diane Systems, for example. I'm giving you a lot of names now, but hopefully we can put those in the description later. And then our machinery as well. So there's like, if you go to Handmade Seattle, for example, you can see a lot of projects, a lot of people that have their own little communities that they're all joining into the melting pot of Handmade. Maybe Handmade joins into the melting pot of Zig and Zig into Handmade. Like, and we just like growing systems programming in a way that finally starts to gain mind share, right? And a mainstream opinion of like, yeah, we can go back to writing software that doesn't, make you feel bad about things. And so thank you for listening to this. I hope you join Handmade Network. I hope you join Handmade Seattle. I hope to see you there in person. And let's keep making systems programming grow. And let's put our best foot forward. Being competent, studying hard, learning about computers hard, but also learning to work with each other together. So those are my closing thoughts.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Abner. Thank you for everything that you did. I know it's exhausting to do everything. It was a great pleasure, and I hope to do this again in the future. So, yeah.
Keep talking. Let's keep doing it.
Thank you very much. And with this, the show ends.
This is how we